Hi, folks.
Does anybody
Welcome.
actually have access?
Hang on,
Oh,
please. Cadeas? I'll be right back after I beat Cadeas. And welcome to our Friday program. I'm Dan McDermott. Let's introduce our panel here. We have Pam Adger. Welcome, Pam, in Menifee, California. Good to have you with us.
Hey Dan, everyone, how are you?
Doing quite well. Thanks. We have Oleg Moskalinsky.
Who was horribly sunburned, so you don't see the face today.
He played the hand in
the Addams Family,
the Addams
Russian
Family. We have Michael Banks in Augusta, Georgia. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California, if not Tokyo. You're in California today?
I'm in California for a while.
Joining us from a reservation somewhere is Harold Carey Jr., part of the
Howdy,
longest hangout of all time. So anyway, good to have you all with us. We appreciate it. All right, so programming note, I will be on the Virginia Talk Radio Network tomorrow at 11 just after 11 a.m. after CBS News, and that's Eastern Time, 8 a.m., 11, 10, 9, 8, 8 a.m. Pacific Time, right after the news. So it's an odd URL, VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com. And there's a link below if you want to see. Okay, so our first story takes us to Middle America, Ferguson, Missouri. And here's basically what I know. I've been following this pretty well. So what we know is that allegedly a guy, Michael Brown, entered a liquor store at 11:30 or so a.m. on Saturday. Surveillance tape appears to show him taking a box of cigars and getting into a verbal confrontation with the shopkeeper, who was about half his size. And then he at one point pushed with his girth the small shopkeeper and then left. Then later at 12:01 p.m. roughly, a different police officer, unaware that Brown was a suspect in the robbery, encountered him, according to the chief, quote unquote, walking down the middle of the street, blocking traffic. There was some sort of thing, someone's tweeting, sorry. There was some sort of incident, and that has not been, details of that have not been released because it's under investigation by the neighboring authorities in St. Louis. Cadeas? You used to live down there, didn't you?
No, I'm 4 hours from there, Kansas City, actually.
Oh, okay. So Missouri's bigger than I thought. But anyway, so there was some sort of incident, and by 12:04, Mr. Brown was shot. I don't know how many times exactly, but he was dead. And someone actually live tweeted it. And then the next night, there were gatherings in the street, and a convenience store, some mart, was burned down. It was not the store that was robbed, because that was under guard today. And then things rapidly deteriorated. There were some troublemakers. I don't know how many. I mean, I'm basing all this on media reports. I wasn't there, and on social media reports, videos and stuff. But I saw a lot of things where crowds were standing there, appeared to be peacefully assembling, probably loud, chanting with signs, and they were tear gassing them, ordering them to leave. They brought these tanks out with sniper rifles, shooting rubber bullets, shooting tear gas. I saw an Al Jazeera crew standing there setting up for a live shot and they tear gassed it, and then put the lights down. But apparently, in between that video, some local people were messing with their stuff, and so perhaps the police were trying to protect it. I have no idea. And then some police brought the crew back to get their stuff into their car. They've been roundly criticized for the militarization of their police department. Just some demographics: the town is, I think, 69% black, and there's 2 or 3 black police officers in the town. And it's a city or a town, I'm not sure which. And neighboring counties were brought in because they did not anticipate the, I don't know what you'd call it, rioting or angry crowds burning down the one building on Sunday night. So they called in reinforcements from the other area. So that's kind of what we know. We do not know what happened. We do not know as far as the shooting, because that will be investigated by the federal authorities, the Department of Justice, and by the FBI. I assume FBI for any criminal things, DOJ for civil violations. So that's kind of what we know. I know that I was looking at video of this, and it looked more like a foreign war zone, like Gaza, than Middle America. So I want to talk, first of all, just what are your thoughts on what you saw and what you think about this? Pam, let's start with you.
I'm only going to say that it was a welcome surprise to see the difference in the atmosphere once the highway patrol took over for the Ferguson Police Department. I thought that was really cool. And that's about all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. They went literally from snipers, tanks, and tear gas to the guy in charge was walking with the protesters, hugging them, and the police were taking selfies with the protesters. And I've never seen a more dramatic change in tone and temperament than I saw one guy who was discussing this. He said, he said he used to do crowd control in the military. He was trained. He said, rule number 1, your mere presence can accelerate the tension. So, Cadeas, I know you've posted a couple things about this. You may have some thoughts. You don't have thoughts at everything, but when you do, it's not hard to wind you up. What do you think?
What aspect of it?
Just in general, what were your thoughts today watching the tear gas and stuff, and the rising in temperament over there? Whatever you think. What were you discussing or thinking about this week?
Honestly, I think that people, really my issue is really with the militarization of police. I don't see American citizens as a threat to the point that we need to become a military to go after American citizens. And so that being in a small town, and you're seeing the size of the town, and they pull out the big guns, so to speak. That's their definition of the big guns. So it makes me wonder what the big guns are for cities like Los Angeles and New York City, and the big cities. What's the definition of their big guns, and why? I mean, we had what was it? Like mine detecting stuff going on and stuff that's supposed to be able to repel it. I mean, all this unnecessary tech there.
Yeah, I don't know how many landmines are in Ferguson, Missouri. I'm guessing.
Right. So I'm wondering why that's where I struggle at. I struggle with why we need to do this against American citizens. So it makes me really pay attention to that and really question it.
Michael, you're uniquely qualified. You're a black guy in Georgia, and also you are in the military. So what are your thoughts? Were you paying attention? I know you were in training, but what do you think about Ferguson, Missouri, and what happened? What do you think about the militarization of the local police department? And this stems from the Pentagon Surplus Program 1033, where they're bringing stuff back and they don't know what to do with it. So they're literally, in one case, like this anti-mine thing, the retail price is $733,000. They'll sell it to a local PD for $2,300, which is a pretty good deal. Michael, what do you think?
Well, this is literally the first time I've heard anything about it or anything of it. But I'm not surprised.
Okay. You're a busy guy. Harold, what do you think? Were you paying attention to this week?
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the things that I found out that this originally, what we're just talking about now, is the militarization that originally started with a holdup in Hollywood. These people that were holding up a bank in Hollywood had all this body armor and they had machine guns, and they completely mowed down the police. And so that was the original time that the police in Hollywood demanded that they have the same guns and all this armor that the criminals have had. And so that was the very first time this got started.
I remember that incident. I remember seeing the video of it, and these guys did have these big guns, and they literally outgunned the cops. The cops were not prepared with that kind of munitions.
So on this thing here, what I've noticed is that it's pretty. The thing that bothered me, I mean, everything else is a good normal reaction that this thing happening, these people should be mad about it. But the thing that really bothers me is that these people take that experience as to go and loot, to go and tear down those buildings and burn those buildings down, and it has nothing to do with what happened.
Yeah, I don't see where much was accomplished in a productive way by burning down a convenience store that had nothing to do with it. There's this thing I linked to here. This is from the New York Times. It's fascinating, and it is it's an interactive map showing the spread of U.S. surplus stuff, and you can click like here, aircraft, planes, and helicopters, and it shows you where they are. Armored vehicles, like I'm up here in you see in Culpeper County, Page County, they've got 27 assault rifles, 8 night vision, 1 armored vehicle. I thought we had 1 in Warren County. Grenade launchers. Let's see how many grenade launchers we have in the area. Rockingham County, Virginia, 9 assault rifles, 5 pistols, 3 shotguns, grenade launcher. And you can check your own community for each of these categories. Lots of assault rifles I see. Shenandoah County, Virginia, just south of me. Frederick County, Virginia, it's one of my newspaper areas. So, yeah, and you can zoom in, but it's really neat. It's very interesting. So I recommend, I don't know, neat's too strong. But the culminate, all this stuff, was a tweet from the Ayatollah of Iran, the Supreme Leader Khamenei, who tweeted, "Today the world is a world of tyranny and lies. The flag of human rights is borne by enemies of human rights with U.S. leading them. Hashtag Ferguson." Can you imagine the Ayatollah of Iran? It's kind of embarrassing, really.
Embarrassing to who?
He's not entirely without merit, I would say. The right to peaceably... Again, we don't know everything. We weren't there. We didn't see everything. Alan, what are your thoughts? And then we can go on to a tech topic.
I really have nothing that I really wish to say about this, except to actually echo the last point that you were making, is that this is the PR issue worldwide that this and many, many other incidents have caused.
And it shows you how big this story is. This is a very big story. If the Ayatollah of Iran knows about it, with all the crap that's going on in his country. Okay, so let's talk about Google. There was an interesting post from Captain Kirk about Google sign-on. William Shatner posted about this, and he said the first hiccups happened in 2011 when they introduced the beta for Google+. And his issue is that he signed on with someone else with a different email address for YouTube, and it was like a handler, right, who would post videos for him, because he's obviously a busy guy and has lots of money, so he has different people doing different things. And then now he's trying to combine his Google Plus presence with his YouTube 9 years of videos, and he's unable to do it. And I was, frankly, I mean, we've all heard stories like this. I think Michael Ellis can attest to that. Once he gets settled in of trying to combine different things or what have you. But I'm impressed with the technical knowledge that William Shatner has. I don't know. Alan, this is a pretty typical
What makes
scenario,
you
isn't
think
it?
he wrote that?
Oh, true.
He already admitted that he has a handler.
Valid. You have a startlingly rosy appearance tonight from your laptop screen.
I'm working on it.
Excellent color. So, what do you think? You think you think it's a scam that he didn't write it?
I think that's not relevant. That's not the point. The point is that he has a valid. In some ways, what he's saying is valid, and in some ways, he's, well, what's the right way to put this? Wrong. It is possible to do what he essentially said couldn't be done. Well, just because his handler didn't bother to read the documentation, and because Google has its typically horrible PR and communications and support system in place, is why this has happened fundamentally. But what he wants to do, which is essentially put someone in control of a YouTube channel and page, you can do it. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Michael.
You can do it, but I mean, what it seems like it wasn't set up that way. He has like these old archaic accounts that existed, and they want to do these things. And my guess is just like yours, that the handler did something wrong in some kind of case and linked some things where they shouldn't be linked, and
He didn't
causes
link
issue.
anything at all. It sounds like.
I would have to, I think, disagree. I mean, it's some kind of little area where you go in and it notifies you of these changes. Like, hey, this has to be linked. I know, like with YouTube and linking those two together, you have to go in and like link it or say okay or check I understand. It doesn't just happen on the back. You got to press something. And like you said, single sign-on catch. I think it was signed in and something else that you wasn't supposed to be signed in on, or didn't manage the account a certain way. I think it was user error. I do agree that, I mean, Google does do some, weird things happen about changing accounts and stuff like that, but I literally think it goes to the handler issue or handler user error.
Aren't you kind of surprised that there's no like VIP team that these guys can reach out to, these international celebrities?
I'm shocked that there's not. It's boneheaded that there's not.
Well,
I understand that
here's
they ignore me, but William Shatner's the big celebrity.
and I'd point out he was a big celebrity that Vic Undotra touted when he did join Google+.
Oh, I was going to say that's relative. Big celebrity is relative.
Okay, but Alan made the right point that Google thought he was a big celebrity, and that's important enough for Google to pay attention.
Especially among the Google Plus crowd, which is started out as geeks. Star Trek? Are you kidding me? Big time.
And they love music. But Shatner Shatner's account has a verified name. So somebody at some point said, yeah, he's legitimate.
After they first said
let's
he's
make a note of
illegitimate
that.
because they banned him when he first did it. Because it was the handler's name, email address. So it wasn't like, Bill at Paramount. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's something, once again, this is an illustration of Google+, when they rolled things out, didn't know what they were doing, tripped over their shoelaces multiple times, and then, kicked themselves in the head. So, they screwed up in any number of ways, which we cover just about every time they did. So it's a miracle that he even cares about the fact that he has a Google+ account. And then they did it again by, when they integrated YouTube and Google+, which was a good move, but you'd figure that they would, reach out to the pages, the most important brands that they have, and work with them.
They can't have more than a few dozen of them anyway.
They've got... Yeah, I don't see, everyone, at the MTV Music Awards Google Plusing from stage, Ellen's not doing a Google Plus selfie.
Exactly.
So when we can get them, even if they're like B-list, like Shatner, let's bump them up. They got 60,000 plus employees at Google. They could have a couple assigned to Hollywood. By the way, I got rid of the godforsaken circle for you people that complained all the time. Thanks to Pam and Cadeas for helping me figure out that. All right, next up is you can cast your Google Plus. Didn't we cover this, or we just teased it Monday, Alan?
We teased it Monday.
Okay, so you now with the, I guess it's the new Chromecast app or the new Google Plus app.
The new Google Plus app.
But you have to download it. So tell us, because this was a big thing that, is it going from your phone to your device, or is it just
I don't know. I
simultaneously?
haven't actually played with this one. I just got it today, so I haven't played with it.
I played with it. So I can tell you exactly how the thing works. Basically, it works on the tablet, it works on the phone, either way, and it does a really nice job. It shows your stream as a slideshow. So you crank it up, you click on the Chromecast, right next to where it says everything on the app, where you can pull down and select specific circles and stuff.
There
If
used
you leave
to be
it,
a search button. They replaced that with the Chromecast button.
correct. Only if it's plugged in. Okay, if the Chromecast is not plugged in, you will not see the Chromecast icon on the app. So it has to be plugged in and up and running, then you'll see the icon. And then you click on it to indicate where you want to stream it, and then it starts showing your main stream. It doesn't show any other stream. You cannot select any other stream. It has to be your main stream that it shows as a slideshow on the screen. And then you have controls. You can either click to go back, you can click forward, you can pause, or if it's a video, you can click play, and it'll play the video on TV. And it does a real nice job. Beautiful quality, very nice job.
So it's better than not being able to do it.
Now, Oleg, let me ask you something. If you turn your phone off, does it continue to work?
Yeah, it does. Because I did that.
Excellent. No,
Yeah.
good to see that they got it right this time.
Yeah. No. First of all, I was kind of surprised because it talked about it, and I read some posts about it. It's like, where the hell is the icon? I mean, I can't even see anything. I turn on the phone, there's nothing there, and that's because my Chromecast wasn't plugged in. So then when I plugged it in to see if that's the problem, then kudos to them for their actually seeing, not just showing the icon in case you have it plugged in. I mean, you have to have it plugged in and running, and then you can go ahead and select it. So it's very nice. They did a really nice job. The only thing I don't like about it is that I can't select the specific circle that I want to see the stream of.
Now
As
you
opposed to
can't
just my main stream.
you can't interact in any way or save something for. In other words, like if you encountered a post of mine and you wanted to like yell and scream at me, you would have to literally look me up and find the post. You couldn't do anything on your phone while you're casting it, or you could.
Yeah, you could not. No, you can either pause, go forward,
you
go
can't.
back. That's it.
When you pause it, you can press on the app itself, and it should take you a link to it. No?
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I don't know. I'm sure you can get to a point to be able to do it, but I mean the whole idea behind this thing is you're sitting and watching TV and watching your stream go by. I mean that's the whole concept behind it, and they did a nice job. I mean it's a useful thing.
Who
Yeah.
watches a stream that doesn't that doesn't feel the urge to comment or rant at Dan?
No, and I don't think that's the idea. I mean the whole idea is you're doing something on TV. You don't typically do interactive stuff on your TV. So it's just showing your stream on your TV.
It's a
And then-
form,
and it
so it's
shows the-
wallpaper.
It's
It's a
a-
form. If you want to interact, you get on your desktop or your laptop. Pam.
I was just going to say, for someone like me who needs to provide my opinion at every turn, I don't know if I could do that.
Pam meet Oleg. Oleg meet Pam.
I know.
No, but that's not. I mean,
Are you
it doesn't
literally
matter.
hiding
That's
from us,
not what
Oleg?
it's for.
He's literally hiding
Okay.
from us.
Yeah, he's literally hiding from us. Yeah.
I'm here. You can hear my voice, my hands.
Yeah.
I told you I got sunburned. You want to see a face, and then you won't be able to sleep at night.
I didn't know
That's
you
what
were
I'm
so
showing you.
vain, Oleg. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, I'm just saying that basically it's not what it's for. I mean, the idea is just to cast information to the screen, and you can do it for Google Plus, just like you cast photos or you cast videos, things like that. I mean, same exact concept.
Yeah, but
Like I said, the only thing that would make it extremely more useful, in my opinion, for both educational and for business use, is if I could select a specific stream for a specific circle. That would make it much, much, much more useful than it is right now.
Well, I know. I mean, I used it about a good hour and a half today, and what I find myself using it for is, putting up there. I casted the entire stream on thing, and then like I just glanced over, like, oh, that seems neat. I want to see what that's about. So I mean, at that point, I had to pick up my phone, and then I can pause the stream so it won't go no more, and then I just press on the story or the post or whatever, and it'll take me to the post, and at that point I can do it. And a neat thing that they also got right in it, if the post was a video, I can play the video from the phone, and it'll play the video on the stream.
Right,
So
exactly.
that was neat as well. But I mean, it's some application. Yeah, the circles would be a neat update to it. But I mean, probably seems like it's coming.
So it's
Well,
a cool
considering
first
how much
step.
they hate circles in the first place, it's not surprising they forgot to do that.
But it's a cool first step, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is.
Who says they forgot about it? Maybe they want to start out small and then gradually progress.
Hopefully B comes
Do
not
you
just
really
A.
want to get into this debate, Michael?
I mean, just look at the iPhone, man. They just, you start with the limited stuff, and then you get things like folders and
Do you really
renaming.
want to get into this debate, Michael? Do you?
So
Hey, I haven't been here for a while, so I got plenty stored up for it. No, you can go ahead and
a
move
lot
on.
of pent up energy. After the show, we're gonna go burn down the local 7-Eleven. All right. Next up is reminder that is an APK download. Where would people find that, Alan?
No, it's not an
Reminder.
APK
It's
download.
not. It's just regular update. Yeah.
It's being pushed out now.
Okay, it says APK download in the headline. I guess this is an
Well,
older
that's
story.
because the people who publish these headlines are publishing the headlines for people who have to get the APK the moment it comes out.
Right.
So they advertise the APK.
Also, this would have been a story from Monday or earlier, so that may have been the case at the time.
No, at the
Because
time it was being pushed out. Just
Okay.
it was being pushed out slowly because that's how they release things. And for people who, have this burning desire to get an app before anybody else does so they can gloat about it, you need to download the APK. For everyone else on the Cosmos, it'll show up in a few days. Relax.
Yeah, in the Play Store.
But
Just go to
Alan-
Play Store, you see the update. Exactly.
But
I had
Alan,
it for a
why,
couple of days, regular update. I didn't do any APK or anything.
but Alan, why push things out slowly? Why not just turn the fire hose on and let everybody get it at the same time? I mean, why would they push things out slowly? I mean,
Because sometimes they push out things that break.
So wouldn't that be a good reason why we can only do all the circles instead of select circles and communities and
Okay,
things like
Michael.
that?
Michael, you really want to go there? 'Cause it
Oh
really sounds
God,
like
this
you
is
do.
really, really in the weeds.
Tell you what, Michael. Michael, name one other product associated with Google Plus that actually was enhanced significantly after their initial release,
After the release of the integration.
after the release of the feature.
Okay, define significantly, because I mean we can go Blogger.
No. I said Google Plus.
Hold up. So you want something that
A feature that was added to Google Plus that at some point later was actually expanded, as opposed to abandoned.
Photos.
Hangouts, I mean.
Hangouts?
Hangouts was a good one, yeah.
Photos?
Hangouts is barely part of Google Plus and always has
Photos?
barely been part of Google Plus.
Communities.
Communities?
Hey, they got
Really?
stickies now.
Name
They
two
got
features that communities got.
stickies. Sticky posts, and
Sticky
then
posts, true.
Sticky posts and
they got the
Hangouts?
little
Hangouts.
the moderator and owner.
Owner.
You know the label.
Hangouts
The
have
label?
significantly improved.
I said besides Hangouts because they're barely part of Google Plus.
Labels.
What
the
do you mean they're
moderator
barely
and
part
owner
of? They were considered the killer feature of Google Plus.
Right, and they're so killer that people use them without Google Plus now. They have nothing to. Hangouts have nothing to do with Google Plus.
I'm not even using. I'm using a Hangout, but I'm not using it on Google Plus.
I got another one actually, Alan. Full-size photos.
Full-size photos. Okay.
Photo resolution in general is fantastic compared
Well,
to
but
Facebook.
it's always been fantastic.
Okay, so we all agree.
Full-size photos have been there since the beginning too, Michael. But I mean,
Yeah.
I can point at things like the photo editor, which has gotten 2 changes since it rolled out. and it's still missing every single feature that everyone kept asking for. Events have gotten one change, if that, since it rolled out 2 years ago. 2 years ago with no major changes.
Major changes. You're talking about major changes.
I'm talking
That is
about
true,
almost
and
any
it sucks.
changes.
Events suck.
Events suck.
Okay, and if the only things you can talk about communities getting since the rollout are the fact that it got the moderator label and pinned finally.
I mean, they expanded the about section as well. I mean,
The new update works a little better when you have bad Wi-Fi. That's basically Neil Armstrong. One giant leap for mankind.
I mean, the problem is they fundamentally they release a feature, and then the team gets reassigned to do something else, leaving the intern behind to make any changes.
Their blogging platform is far superior to anything WordPress. Oh my God! You should. If Craig shows up, you just say, "Hey, Craig, how's it going with Blogger?" Just wind him up, man. Oh my God!
He's winding up.
All right. Yeah. All right. So you're in a rare good mood, Alan. You haven't attacked me at all. The night is young.
But you barely said anything.
Like Willie, or what was the guy in Blazing Saddles? Kill anybody yet? They ain't over yet. Or kill anybody today? All right, next up is this is a kind of an edge, weird topic, but Google AdWords remove advertisers' ability to match only exact keywords. And honest to God, I've not read this. So, while Alan reads, my name is Dan. I'm a Gemini. This program is on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, every Friday.
The fact that you're a Gemini explains a lot.
The fact that I'm ADHD and the youngest child explains more.
Please explain. I'm a Gemini too.
Way to fly. You're a taller version, though. And our other program is Our Android Week, which is every Monday at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, where we discuss Android. Okay, Alan, do you have enough knowledge here?
Not really, but I'll wing it anyway.
Just act like you know what you're doing. And
Well, basically, the headline kind of says it all. Previously, advertisers could set up keyword matching as well as fuzzy keyword matching. So you had the option to say, okay, don't just match this exact keyword, but match anything that's close to this keyword as well. They're now taking away the option to do only exact keyword matching. And they're predicting that advertisers will be unhappy about this because they want to make sure they keep control over exactly what matches and exactly what doesn't, and so forth. I don't know. I really can't speak for advertisers well enough to know how pissed off they'll be at Google.
I think only a subset, like the niche ones that only want like the tech people. I mean, they only want this certain type of advertiser. The seller only wants a certain type of customer. But I think removing that ability, I mean, might more people might be able to see, or might be able to get more eyes. That way, it may make it more appealing to advertisers to actually come to it.
Well, I mean, in theory, it should still reach the exact same people as it did before. Plus, it would reach people who are, who cannot spell, or who are trying to search for something using the plural form of a word, or something like that. So it's not taking anything away, at least on the surface.
it sounds like a revenue play, because if now to get the sales I want, I've got to run more ads because I'm going to get some incorrect targets. If I have a situation where
I could bill it just the other way, that you're not going to be getting incorrect targets. You're actually going to be getting more people who actually tried to find you, but typed something in wrong.
they may be on mobile.
No, I don't think that's that at all. I think what they're doing, as Google is doing it, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to diminish the amount of ads that are being shown and not being clicked on. That's what they're trying to do with this thing. Okay, because right now, before you could specify a specific word, and they would only charge you when people click on an ad that says it has to be exact this match, otherwise the ad will not show up. Now with this fuzzy deal, the ads will show up in a lot more places, which means there's a lot more possibility of people to click to get to the deal without necessarily being the exact match they used to have to click on to get to. That's the way I'm reading this. So Google should be able to make a lot more money by using this, by adopting this other tactic, because where it used to be that the ad would only show up with the exact match of the word, now it doesn't have to be exact, it could be semi-exact.
And you know the way Google works, I mean, they test, especially in their ad thing, which is where they get all their money. They actually devote resources to that. But they, you know that they probably ran some blind tests to see if they did this or if they didn't do this.
Well, they've been doing.
What-
I mean,
what
this
was
has been
the-
has been an option
how did this
for 2
impact?
years now.
How did this impact revenue? And this is a fairly new ability anyway, right? I think 2 years.
This has been an option for 2 years now, and Google says that companies that had this option turned on saw a 7% increase in revenue over those that didn't. Treat that, read that as you wish.
Yeah. So that's
No,
that
so like I
sounds-
said, I think what's happening, Alan, is that before, these people said, only show my ad if I have the exact match, which it wouldn't have in as many places as it could now. So now the ad shows in more places, like you were saying, where it's an approximate match. That, of course, generates most likely more visibility and more clicking, which can easily turn, because of this more clicking, into more revenue. But mainly, it definitely turns into more revenue for Google, the way I see it.
Okay, so we all agree. All right, before we do our
Yes.
next topic, we're all gonna. It's a really boring topic, so we're all gonna do our Oleg impersonation. All right, next is a global consortium. Actually, it's not boring. A global consortium, although we'll find a way, to build a new trans-Pacific cable system faster. And I think this is another one I've not read. But this, I mean, faster is not perhaps strong enough a term. We're talking fast. What's this about?
Well, for starters, FASTER appears to be an acronym, although this doesn't actually say what it's an acronym for. And basically what they're looking to do is set up a high-speed fiber, high-speed, high-bandwidth, high-capacity set of fiber cables. So it's essentially 6 fiber pair cables, high quality, that will be going in between U.S. West Coast and 2 different landing sites in Japan. And then from each of those connections, it'll span out, from Japan it'll go into Asia, from the U.S. landing point it'll go to the entire, into North America. So basically it's just a way to get more capacity on a trans-Pacific line.
Okay.
Is it, Alan? Is this what struck me about this article or this announcement? I didn't read this. I don't know if I've read this specific article, but I've read about it. This topic. Is this unique that Google is doing this? Is this something that other private companies actually spend a bunch of money on to lay their own dedicated cable?
I don't think that I'm looking through the list of the companies involved in this, and I don't see Google
like
listed.
6 companies, though. I thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's China Mobile, China Telecom, KDDI, Singtel, Global Transit, and NEC.
Mm-hmm. And Google.
I don't see Google listed.
Interesting.
I don't know
But-
who. I don't know who put this article in, but I don't see Google listed.
The article that I read said, of course, was focused on Google and listed those other firms, but I thought it was interesting that nobody to date that I've identified, including IBM, which kind of surprises me, has invested in this mega scale, on this mega scale, to create internet connection between the continents. And I'm surprised that Google's the first one to do it.
Here's actually found an article, Tech Times. I'm not sure how credible they are, but it says Google, along with 5 Asian telecommunication companies, will be collectively investing into faster trans-Pacific cable. So I mean,
Right. So that's consistent with what I learned, that there were 6 firms and Google was one of them. The rest were Asian. What surprised me, Michael, was that there's no U.S. firms that have already done this.
well, I mean,
Why does that surprise you?
It just strikes me as the kind of large-scale thing that some certain U.S. firms would have been interested in doing.
I mean,
That's true.
when I first saw the story, I was
Idea?
like, how faster would this be than just doing the network? I know direct is faster than the network model, but I mean, I still didn't. I don't see the benefit. I mean, might this direct line is faster? I don't know.
We need to
But
run a
it-
cable to Georgia. Jeez.
What do you mean you don't see a benefit to this? You don't see
Yeah,
a
there's-
benefit to Google having a major backbone between their San Francisco. You don't see anything right now because you don't have any bandwidth, as Dan alluded to.
But don't,
Right.
he's rejoining us, I think. But here's the deal. I'm amazed how fast it is. I see, like we talked, like Jason Salas is in Guam. I assume that's not Satellite's cable, right? And Mike Downs, our friend in the UK, and we've had Lord Parker on. And when you talk to these guys, they're across the ocean, and there's very little latency. It's not really detectable. You can have a conversation in real time, just like you're on the phone with someone across the street. I'm amazed how good it is
Yeah.
compared to
I
Wi-Fi,
agree.
which sucks. We had you on from Beijing, right, or somewhere in China, Michael, and
Through a VPN.
it was, I mean, it was a lot better than some of the domestic Wi-Fi situations we've had folks on.
Yeah, but consider that why Google wants this isn't specifically for these kinds of video chats. It's because they've got massive amounts of data in their data centers that they want to be able to ship between their U.S. data center, their Asia data center, and their European
Exactly.
data centers as
But
quickly as they can.
This isn't for supporting Hangouts. This is for supporting search.
Well, it's for supporting a lot of things, but it includes search or their bread and butter.
Yeah.
All right, can we get to the badass topic? This is
I just
epic.
want to talk about sharks, huh?
I want to talk about it's Shark Week, isn't it? Where we learned
I
that the
think-
megalodon may not be extinct, in fact, according to the liars. But who knew?
My Shark Week starts Sunday.
Oh, okay. Is that a?
Period joke.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that a veiled
Oh my God.
That's what I
reference?
thought she was alluding to.
It was initially a veiled reference, but
It's no longer veiled.
it's got nothing on our pre-show conversation. All right, so anyway,
Which I cleverly missed.
wisely or cleverly or a combination
Yeah,
of those
wisely
things.
missed.
So here we go. Apparently, they've. Is this only a minute? What's going on? Okay, so apparently, sharks just cannot get enough of undersea cables. There's an electromagnetic field that they like. We're speculating because we haven't actually interviewed any of the sharks. So they bite the cables, and apparently I sound like that viral kid. Apparently, they can detect the electromagnetic field in weaker fish, and they know who to go for an easy kill. And they either are distracted by this and think it's something, or they don't like it because maybe it's interfering with their ability, or maybe they just, what is this? Let me bite it, I don't know.
Well,
Like I
find
said,
out.
we're going to investigate and interview several sharks this week.
That's usually what I say.
So what do you guys think? This is weird. Google announced that this is a thing, and you thought you had to worry about something. Michael, I need you to go down and coat these cables. So, I don't know. This is just kind of anecdotal and interesting, I guess. Are there any hidden meanings in this? Any controversial issues, Dr. Furstenberg, we need to be aware of?
He's muted.
The interesting part here actually appears to be how they figured out what was breaking the cables.
Wasn't it the shark teeth that gave them a clue?
What
Maybe.
shark teeth?
They said that they found shark teeth. It's only a 3-paragraph article. In 1987, they found shark teeth.
Embedded
Yeah.
in the cables?
Oh.
Yeah. It said, the New York Times said that, well, here we go again with this video. In 1987, it's marked in red, Alan. This is funny. I don't ever get to call Alan out because he's always right and knows everything, and it's so rare.
What makes you think I'm not in this case?
I'm relishing this. Even when he's wrong, he's right. Just ask him. That shark attacks that caused the failure of 4 segments of brand new cabling and an experimental cable placed in 85 was discovered to have shark teeth embedded in it. The behavior has since been observed more recently with footage from a remotely operated submersible uploaded in 2010 showing a large shark clamping its jaws around a segment of thick cable.
Yes, that's the interesting part, is that they had a submersible watching the cable.
Boy, that's a boring job. I need you to go for... Michael, you got 6
Watch the
weeks
clip.
available. I need you to go down there.
Dan,
Are we done with this topic?
Dan, you know that you
remote.
remotely control these things?
Yeah.
Oh, can
You don't
they?
actually have to be down there. Yeah, it's remote controlled.
It's hard enough for me to get through a show without peeing 5 times. I can't imagine being stuck in a tube down there.
Have you had your prostate checked?
Oh my God.
Is that an offer?
Oh my God. Not on YouTube. All right, so
She had to
we're
mute
gonna have
herself.
it's
and
gonna
so
be a
did
good night,
Alan.
folks. Stay tuned. We've yet begun.
Muted except-
All right, so
No.
that's the Sharkgate. I will always remember where I was during the great shark story of 2014. Next up is if a self-driving car. This is interesting. If a self-driving, we've talked about this before, as Alan, in an absolutely hysterical non-dig post at me or comment, whatever it was. If a self-driving car gets in an accident, who is liable? So, as Alan pointed out, since I am, in fact, in keeping with our shark theme, I am a fish. I forget everything I've ever learned every 2 minutes. So, here's the deal. It's interesting. I would draw an analogy to this. If you're a driverless car gets in an accident, first of all, a lot of it depends on what the law says and what the terms of service say when you buy the car, right? Who's in charge of it? I would draw an analogy to this. Let's say I have a phone, and Cadeas didn't think this was a great analogy, but it's the best one I can think of. I'm at Cadeas' house. I have this phone. I'm using it as intended. He says, Dan, crash here because you got to go to Virginia tomorrow, right? And he's in California. So he has a spare bedroom. I'm asleep. I got the phone on the pillow next to me. All of a sudden, the battery explodes. There's an accident. And that spare bedroom or loft or whatever ignites and there's $50,000 damage to the house. Okay? So I was using it normally, but there was an accident. I didn't do anything wrong. The machine failed in some way. Who's liable? Am I liable to replace the house? Is his insurance company? Is Samsung? Is Sprint? I don't
And
know.
as I explained to Dan, that's probably not a good analogy because if the driverless car is actually being driven and controlled by a computer system, let's just say since it's Google's driverless car, let's say it's Google's server that's running and making sure it knows where every car is and its whole system, and somehow there's a wreck or accident, I would say that Google would be liable for that.
That
I have no
assumes
control
that
of the
there
car.
that assumes that it's the fault of real-time instructions coming from a source as opposed to pre-programmed instructions or equipment, could be an equipment malfunction, which would be very analogous to the phone, right? All this stuff was
Well-
coded before I bought it, but there's still some ongoing stuff and updates being pushed. You'd have to
Here's the
find out
problem.
what caused the accident, right? Go ahead, Alan.
Here's the problem with that, though, even, is that it presumes, Cadeas' assumption presumes that an accident could be avoided. And there are some cases where an accident could not be avoided, so it now falls to the software to figure out what the best action, what the best course of action is. And if it picks a course of action that causes more casualties, does that make it the best one?
I mean, I think it goes. If Google's liable, I think it goes down to the base issue is who's at whose fault. Is it the driverless car's fault? Is it the actual other person, the human person's fault? So I mean, I think that's when it goes into liability. Now the decision making. I mean, at that point, you can go into the best course of action, or worst course of action, but it's going to be a what if game the entire time. What if this happened and what if that happened? But I mean, I think at the core, it all depends on whose fault the actual accident relies on.
And see, my assumption in this scenario would be that everyone's using driverless cars. So that was the assumption that I was making with this analogy. I wasn't saying driverless cars mixed with normal drivers. Now,
Well, now that changes it. That changes it. If all of them are driverless cars,
Then
and as long as the human or the operator or Google or no one makes anything that doesn't, goes against how it was intended to be used, at that point, that's when it goes on, hey, how did this happen? If that goes down to the algorithmic level, then hey, it's Google's liable.
Right. That's what I was assuming. I didn't realize that we were mixing the two driverless cars.
We're not. I mean,
Okay.
I think we can assume that, no, we're talking about only autonomous vehicles, but even so, there are situations where purely autonomous vehicles could get into accidents because there's other things that might be causing the problem. If you've got cars that are driving on snow, for example, even if the algorithm is telling it to drive at a safe speed, something could happen. I think the question starts turning into, if you've programmed a car with a set of contingencies, and, well, look at it, for those of us that are programming, we have the concept of an if-then loop, of an if-then tree. So if this condition do this, if this condition do this, if this condition do this, what happens when you get to the end? And you
Watch
haven't
this.
met any of the conditions, yet you still need to do something. What happens?
You know what trumps all your if-then statements? You know what trumps all of that and everything else that, whose fault it is? A terms of service. All they need to do is add one paragraph that says, for all decisions made, you are assuming full liability and capability of the vehicle.
I doubt they'll be able to do that. If they could do that, GM. If they could do that, if it were that simple, GM would have a simple thing that, if we have an error in our ignition switch, we're not responsible. Go ahead. What you got there? We got a comment from.
Christo agrees with you, Michael. He's saying basically that the owner who decided to buy that car is the one that should be liable in this scenario, which I don't agree with.
I completely disagree with that one.
Yeah,
I think it's common sense. I think it's getting back to what Michael Banks said.
Wait a minute. Why do you guys disagree with that?
If the whole
Because
entire road, Pam, it has all driverless cars, and
That's a different scenario.
that's
no,
the
that's the
scenario
exact
we've been
scenario
talking
that we're
about.
talking about.
Yeah.
No, if part of the cars are driverless and part of the cars are not driverless, then still the driverless cars are supposedly controllable by the person in the car, right?
Well, we don't know that. But here's the thing.
Right. We were making the
No,
assumption that
You know what?
everything.
No. Pam brings up an interesting point, though. Still, if we assume that we've got that we're operating roads in mixed mode, so that you've got driverless, so you have autonomous vehicles, and ones that are controlled by a person. Okay, it's a good question, and now the question turns into why would the person sitting in the driver's seat of the autonomous vehicle be responsible for it, since they're not controlling the car in any way, shape, or form?
It goes
So
to the
it's the other
same. It goes to two things. It goes to the same two things. The same thing. The same liabilities happens if you have the same thing in your brakes. The only time that the brake company is liable if one, the brakes fail for the wrong reason, like let's say they didn't make it, specs the right size or whatever. That's the only time where the brake manufacturer or the actual manufacturer of the vehicle is liable. Other than that, even if I'm controlling the vehicle and normally I stop in the snow or whatever, it takes me, I'm still liable. I'm still, it's still my fault.
I think it'll be very
So
similar to
in
now. I
your-
think it'll be similar to the situation now. If you're in a driverless car and a drunk suddenly swerves in front of you and there's nowhere for the driverless car to go and you get hit, it's the drunk's fault, and his insurance company pays you. If your car malfunctions or something if your car causes an accident, some unforeseen situation that the algorithm didn't cover, then your insurance company, you'd have to have insurance, and you would pay for the other driver. And then, just like today, the insurance company would say, okay, is this Google's fault? Or is this the tires? Or is it what happened here? And then they might go after whatever manufacturer. But everyone's going to have insurance. And
But
another question
okay,
is,
stop. Let's
okay, and then I
look
want
at the
to,
insurance
Alan,
question.
hold that thought. After you say it, I want you to answer this. Do you think in our lifetime we will be in an era where everyone's in a driverless car? And if not, when do you think that, if it ever happens, will come to fruition?
I could be.
I certainly would not rule out that we have that we have only driverless cars within our lifetime. But the insurance question is an interesting one, and it's one that I brought up in the comments in yours. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, there'll be insurance. There'll be insurance. Insurance will cover it. It's insurance, 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 insurance." Okay. That's fine, but keep in mind that insurance companies only cover risks when they understand the risk. And until insurance companies understand what the risks of driverless cars are, they're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. No way, no how. Go, Cadeas.
Now, Joshua kind of disagrees with that. He thinks that insurance companies will practically pay you to have a self-driving car in the future, and so you'll get a discount and it's much safer.
In the future.
So-
If they're proven.
Right.
And that's it. I think that insurance companies would like that to be true.
Why would they like for that to be true? That kills their model.
Look, there's a couple hundred
No,
countries
no,
out
no.
there. They're going
I
to
mean,
find
Michael-
one that is going to embrace this, and they're going to pass the laws necessary. And at some point, you're going to see a community, a country, or a city, and a state would have to agree to pass certain laws.
Here's the thing.
And you're
It's
going to
more
see
than just-
a community embrace this to do a real test, Alan.
It's more than just the laws. I mean, it's more than the insurance companies insure car drivers now for more than just the law. They also do it because the National Highway Transportation Safety Board, or whatever the name is, does reviews of every single car model out there and tells you how safe each one is. So they know, hey, if you're driving an Audi, the chance if you get into an accident of you dying is such and such a percent. And we know that Audis, statistically speaking, get into accidents such and such percent of the time. We have all of this data. Insurance companies are totally data-driven. You think Google is data-driven. Insurance companies live by this. Okay? And until they have that data, they're not going to risk it.
And also keep this in mind. People are not going to want driverless cars all the time. There is going to be a subset of the population that is going to want to drive.
A small subset, I think.
Are you kidding me?
No,
I think long term, a small
Michael,
subset.
Michael, it's pretty decent. I mean, look at how many people are on motorcycles and how much that number keeps going up.
Well, the motorcycles, would that be a reflection of the gas prices?
Mm.
Everyone I know, most people I have ever known that have a motorcycle, it's only like $8 to fill up tank.
You don't live near Skyline Drive. Trust me.
Most people I
It's
know that
alive
have a
and well.
motorcycle have a motorcycle because they like having control over their
Yeah.
vehicle. They
So
wanna
we'll see,
feel
but I
the
do
road.
think someone's going to build a community or an existing community is going to pass whatever ordinances they have to pass, or a country. I mean, like I said, there are over 200 countries, and they're going to get someone to embrace this, just like they did. I mean, Google has a history of this, just like with fiber. They put out a contest. You can bid to be the first community, and Kansas City won.
That
And
would
they're
be
gonna find
Nevada.
this-
Caneus, go.
Chris Lane comes in and he says that whoever the new laws that come out surrounding this holds president, it'll be up to the lawyers, judges, and lobbyists and activists who make more of that than the insurance companies. And then he goes on to say that he thinks it's going to be a luxury item in about 25 years, Dan. So he doesn't think it's coming that close.
It's definitely in beta. I mean, the technology is just not there yet. But we got a
I
guy on the
predict-
moon. We got, pretty quickly, right?
I predict a luxury item within 5 to 10 years. Pam, go ahead.
Definitely, yeah.
Scott Mills says it will likely be adopted privately first. These would be great for getting around large theme parks or resorts. I agree with that.
Especially something like that would be at a lower speed with much less risk.
And more control.
Like Craig Shipp spent 6 months in Sarasota, and he says a ton of those guys. It's not really a retirement thing, but it's like a RV park, and he has a big bus, RV bus. And he says a lot of those guys have golf carts that they get around it, because basically they're going out to play tennis or walking or whatever, and they don't need, they're all retired. They don't need to be going 60 miles an hour. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. And what's the most shocking thing of all is that I think the first cars were electric over a century ago. And here we are. The internal combustion engine has basically not changed much. We've added regulations that require additional things be added, like emissions controls and such. But the internal combustion engine is largely the same as when it first came out. Anything else on this? Any other good comments? Please keep them coming.
Joshua went on to say that the solution is for Google to sell car insurance. You agree when you buy the car, and the kicker is that it has to be cheaper than Geico. So
I can literally see Google selling car insurance.
yeah, along with their car.
I can believe that.
Huh? Yeah, because they're doing shopping and doing all sorts of other.
Maybe they can rev up William Shatner to offer really good insurance deals if they can.
Priceline car insurance. Yeah,
if they can gloss over their little friction they have now. I've got this
No,
wild
I-
hair going on.
I think it's a good point. I think it may be that the first, the first people that have these cars out there will also be providing the insurance, and that's literally putting your money where your mouth is.
And they'll probably buy or first partner with like an insurance company, and then over time they'll just engulf.
I
and own this
don't
insurance.
think they'd partner with an insurance company, to be honest.
Starting out.
No, because no insurance company would touch it, because the insurance company is just looking at the financials.
Then they'd buy the insurance company and just do it from.
There's
the
too
but
many
they do it without
unknowns.
The insurance company.
There's
They
too
create
many
Google
unknowns.
Insurance.
We have no idea how many accidents these things are going to get in. We're going to have to do. I mean, we're in the alpha phase, right? We're not even in the beta phase. They
Right,
can
and I
push
mean,
so
as
many
Scott
YouTube
points
videos
out,
they want.
if Google did it themselves, it would give the data for the insurance company. Of course, by that time the insurance company would be, obsolete. But that's, the risk they take, so to speak.
They have big lobbyists. I don't see planned obsolescence anytime soon.
It's not planned obsolescence. It's the fact that if Google's providing the insurance, and who's going to, so that means the insurance companies need to compete against them in some way. How are they going to do so? On price?
Sounds like fiber.
Google provides it for free by selling you the car.
Sounds a lot like fiber.
So we basically solved that.
Well, one more thing for you, Pam. Josh went on to say that he can't imagine having 2 hours of each day back that he spends driving, so he can actually just chill and relax and
I can imagine. Josh, I can imagine it. You know how I can imagine it? Because I don't drive when I commute. Well, that's not true. When I actually commute, I take this great invention called the train, which is kind of like a self-driving car, except it's bigger and more comfortable.
It would be a while
I mean,
before I could go around
definitely can't imagine
Suicide
living
Circle 495 around the Beltway of DC and just read a book looking down while my car is weaving in and out of 70-mile-an-hour traffic. That's
Yeah.
baby steps.
They don't even have bus service where I live. I have to drive, and I only drive 13 miles each way, and it takes me 45 minutes to get home and about 30 minutes to get to work. So
I
that
just
would
drove
be
for
nice to
5
have
hours, so I
that.
really don't want to talk about this. But
Your
don't
commute's
get me
5
wrong,
hours
I
a
am
day?
so looking forward to a self-driving car.
Your commute's 5 hours a day?
No, once
No.
every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I periodically drive 5 hours each way.
Yeah, that sucks. Okay, so we've settled all that. Please keep the comments coming. We're watching them and looking at them. And we'll keep reading them. All right, next up is YouTube's redesigned television app puts focus on channels and playlists. I have no interest in this at all because I don't need such a thing. Because as I've said a million times, my TV is connected to my computer, so I don't need any of these apps. But I know Alan has a Roku, or Craig has a Roku. I think Alan has, mainly he uses his Nexus Q for all of his television consumption. And while Alan is checking this out, I'm gonna note they provide it for free by selling you the car. Says Scott Mills, that just means the cost of the insurance is factored into the car price. I got off work at 2 a.m. Good luck finding a bus, train, or anything else.
Well, I mean, the YouTube story is an interesting one. Mostly it boils down to the apps that show up on Xbox One and so forth now make it easier to get access to channels and playlists that you subscribe to. I find this kind of surprising because I had assumed that's what they were doing all along. And maybe this means that we'll actually see something useful along these lines with Android TV, but I sure as hell wouldn't bet on it. Go ahead, Cadeas.
Well, why wouldn't you bet on the? I mean, this is the interface we saw on Android TV. They're just extending it over to Xbox and all the other platforms. Like, why would
Okay,
you?
so this is the same sucky interface. Good to know.
It doesn't suck.
It does suck.
I'm gonna get a hold of one of these and I'm gonna find out.
It sucks.
Oh God.
This is totally the backwards design. Once again, this illustrates that Google does not understand what a true lean-back design should look like. The only people that seem to know how are the guys that did the Chromecast.
All right, I'll get back to you when I get my Android TV. We'll have this debate.
Yep, can't wait. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Since there are none, we can move on to the next one, which was, I don't know, it's once again one of these, big fat rumors that Google is moving on a new Hangout experience for Chrome, codenamed Ultraviolet. Ooh.
That doesn't seem practical to you?
What was that?
Does that not seem practical to you?
Well, I don't get what they're saying is so big deal about this, but what does it seem like it is to you? Because it's not even obvious what they're saying it's supposed to be.
It's an extension, right? It's an extension, but it's
My understanding is that it's supposed to have chat heads and it's supposed to be some kind of translucent look. I mean, that's the most that I've understood it.
My understanding is just another experience, so it's just another user interface change and may add a couple features or so.
What the hell's a chat head?
It's that awful thing on Facebook, which actually doesn't suck.
So then why'd you call it awful?
Just because I get stuff like,
Is that like the
will
80s
you
Max
feed my
Headroom
freaking
thing?
animals on Facebook, and I just get so disgusted with Facebook. I had to.
Is that like Max Headroom? You know, there's like this chat
Now we're
head.
dating ourselves.
Alan might know what I'm talking about.
We've moved from my prostate to the 1980s.
But I bet you your prostate was smaller back then.
You'll never know. I swear to God, I don't know if I could say this. When Reagan had his prostate surgery and they went on TV, I'm not making this up. Channel, they were showing his prostate, the videos or prostate, whatever. And the head of the Republican Party, a good friend of mine since the 80s, obviously, he called up Channel 4 to protest that they were showing the president's prostate on national television. And he called up the NBC affiliate and said, Susan King, he said, since Susan King's so eager to show Reagan's prostate at 6, or he said, since Channel 4 is so eager to show Reagan's prostate at 6, how about a shot up Susan King's asshole at 11? This is a very prominent state Republican Party chairman today. I won't say who because he would get in trouble. But and
ladies and gentlemen, this is why I do the show with them, just for little moments like this.
All right, so not that I'm eager to get away from my prostate and that of Ronald Reagan, who I've met when I was young, tall, and skinny. This slight UI change, Chrome extension that may or may not exist, is obviously the topic of the show. So, okay, next up is...
I don't know. The biggest reason I can see that this would not happen is that it isn't clear. You know, they're talking about it in terms of a Chrome extension, therefore primarily a Chrome desktop extension. That seems kind of backwards from everything else they're doing, which is making all of their desktop and mobile applications look the same. So unless they're saying this is also going to be what the mobile application will look like, I don't buy it.
You know what would be interesting is if someone did, and then, hang on one second, Michael. It would be interesting if someone did someone with a lot of free time, like someone who's just loves the couch and is bored. If someone did look back at our topics, went to our Google Doc, which is in the thing, you can get to it, you can add topics yourselves, and looked at all of these leaks that we've covered over the last 2.5 years, and then did a study to see how many have come to fruition. Because I think they did this, like the McLaughlin group on most episodes does a prediction round. Predictions, Pat Buchanan. And someone did a study to see how many turned out accurate, and it was like 15% or something, you know? So hopefully we'd bat better than that. But I don't know. A lot of these things turn out to be accurate. Michael, you were saying?
What was I saying? Jeez.
Are you ADHD? I can send you some of my meds. I got pills.
No.
I don't take them. I obviously don't take them.
I was just actually listening to what you were saying. I was just actually listening to what you were saying because I thought there was a point there, but
Silly you. Mistake one.
But, I mean, going back, I think Alan was saying about how everything was going to like everything being built in Chrome and not having the desktop and all the experiences mirroring each other. But I mean, looking at the Hangout extension with what's on Google Plus now, they're basically very, very similar. I know also, I mean, it seems like they've done with the extension supports and looks a lot like the one that supports the Chromebook. So, I mean, it may be with the Chrome OS is how it's going to benefit from making them all the same, but they do look similar to me. The experiences are pretty much the same to me.
Okay. So, we have concluded this topic. All right, so next up is, there was an op-ed piece in The Verge, which is excellent. And I had a funny exchange with Nilay Patel on The Verge, or Vox today, where he said, like, we've done an app. All these people dumping ice buckets of water. What charity is that for, Pam? The water bucket
ALS.
challenge?
I think it's ALS.
I think it started out as ALS, but now it's changed, didn't it?
You are totally asking the wrong person.
You're not going to dump a bucket of ice water on your head for some charity? And I swear to God, if one of you bastards,
I don't mind doing it. I
if
just
one
don't.
of you people challenges me to that, I'm gonna kill you. So anyway, so Nilay Patel was on Twitter today, and he said something like, "Man, they've our app team has come up with this amazing, really way cool app to track the top 15 or whatever best ice bucket videos from celebrities or something." And I tongue in cheek tweeted back, "You have way too much free time." LOL, happy face, right? Like clearly indicating with emoticons or whatever you call it that I was joking, but not really. And then like the head of the app development said like, "Well, that's what we're paid to do," and then that was favorited by the deputy guy. So I like caused some kind of drama with Vox. So I apologize. I don't want to fight with Nilay Patel because he's a lawyer and he's awesome, and I'd love to have him on the show. I worship you, Nilay, and I've been to India, your ancestral homeland. But he's a smart, great, witty guy. I love the guy. So I pissed off Vox today. I apologize. Anyway, so this is really interesting. They're talking about this is an op-ed about Chromebooks from The Verge, which Nilay is now editor-in-chief again of. He left for Vox and then came back when the other guy quit for, I think, Bloomberg. So the argument of this piece is that all the Chromebooks are too small, and I don't have a Chromebook. I know, Alan, you have a Chrome box. I think some of the other you guys, I'm sure.
And I'm doing this from a Chromebook right now.
Oh, okay. So you have a Chromebook, and I know that Cadeas, who owns literally every gadget ever invented, has probably a room full of Chromebooks. But this chart is really interesting. 69% of all laptops, that's including Chromebooks, laptops, I guess the Microsoft thing, 69% are 15 inches. And it dramatically dwarfs 14 and below and 17 and up. 16 inches is horrifically neglected here. This is awful. We should form a group, maybe a White House Gov petition. But anyway, so what do you think? Do you think there's some validity to this? Do you feel sometimes it's about battery life and price point? Because you can't charge too much for something with no hard drive that doesn't run like what people would say are traditional. I can't run InDesign or Photoshop or any of the Microsoft suite, etc. So it's not as functional, but the big allure is that the price point's low, and that screen is the number one battery sucking aspect of any mobile device with a screen. And we're seeing schools adopt these things like crazy. And for like teenagers, they can get by with a 14-inch screen. For me, it'd be, I like a big screen because, I'm 46, I'm getting older, and I'm at the age where you got to hold the menu out at the restaurant to see it, So what do you think? There is not a single, according to this article, there's not a single Chromebook with a 15 or bigger inch screen, period. Not one. Now, they're a terrific value for the money. I wish Harold Carey was in here because he'd recently got one. What do you guys think about this? Is this a thing? I mean, is it just a matter of time and we're making a mountain out of a molehill, or what's the deal? How many cliches can we squeeze into this 4-hour show?
I mean, it's interesting to see that, 15 inches may be the size that is not too big or too small for most people. I don't know if it's the fact that it'd be neat to see the, data on how many laptops are manufactured with 15-inch screens, just because it's the most common size on the market, which may support it being that many, sales of that size. I don't know.
Isn't that weird, though? Do you think it's because people like 15-inch screens? It's the perfect balance? Or do
It's
you think
either that they like the perfect balance, or is that's the most common size that they sell?
Is there a big difference between 14 and 15 or 15 and 17? I don't know. I guess 15 and 17.
I think there's a big difference between 17 and 15, but
Yeah, and there was the 17. What is it? The MacBook Pro 17-inch. Apple actually discontinued that because people just wasn't buying it. So the size is not very many people actually buying it.
I know.
Yeah,
I just
I'm more
bought that
curious to see
NVIDIA
the
tablet,
breakdown
Alan.
when you look at Apple's offerings and see how those compare to the PC. Because
they probably wouldn't tell
these
you.
are interesting numbers that they quoted, but I'm wondering if these are really reflective of anything.
I don't think it's a big difference between 14 and 15. There's a big difference between 2 and 3 inches. There's a big, between 3 and 4 inches. But once you get up to a certain level, like certainly between a 59 and a 60-inch TV, there wouldn't be much of a difference. And I don't know where that line is between it's significant or insignificant. I know that early in the show I mentioned that tablet that Alan recommended, thankfully so, the NVIDIA Shield. It's an 8-inch tablet, and I compared it. I got to post that video. I compared it, and I did a little test. It's 8 inches versus my 7-inch 2012 Nexus 7, and there's not a big difference. I don't think. And so I don't think there's a big difference between 14 and 15. I'm not sure if you looked at one and came back an hour later and looked at the other one, you could tell the difference. You could tell side by side. I can't believe we got through all these inch measurements without Pam losing control. Anything else on this? I think it's a matter of time before they come out with a more varied selection of screen sizes for Chrome.
I don't know. I mean, the higher you go, probably the more power you need, and by the time you get the power you need, it's probably going against the concept or the principle of Chromebooks itself. I don't know.
You're telling me Samsung's not going to come out with a bigger Chromebook screen? I think they will. And just to see, they're spaghetti on the wall. One of these companies is going to try it and see if it sells better.
What are they going to call it? The Samsung Galaxy Notebook?
The Chrome Mega. And they'll tout it's the biggest Chrome. Someone's got bound to do it because then they can tout it's the largest Chromebook out there. But I mean, I guess they have to be expensive, right? So you're going to add price points. But what if they could do a deal with a carrier and they could come out with a 17-inch Chromebook? They could stack a big ass battery in there and give it away for like $100 with a 2-year plan and it has LTE on it. That would be attractive. Potentially, it'd be worth investing and trying in. I would think. I don't know.
I might be reaching out on a limb here, but there may be actually the reason they haven't done it already because there may be Google requirements that say you must have these things in place to have the Chrome logo or the Chrome, like the same thing they used to do with Google thing. In order to be with Google on the back of Android phones, you used to have certain specs. They may do the same or place the same restrictions on Chromebooks. I don't know.
I'd be surprised if they wouldn't welcome such a development. If someone were to put up a battery that was adequate to handle that for a reasonable amount of time.
I mean, they used to make the case where there was really no rules or anything for like Android, but now they're putting some minimum requirements you have to have now. I know you still can go on the back end and black market or something to make an Android phone, but still some level of expectation with Android.
Also, I think it's crazy. This is a clickbait headline. Chromebooks will never be successful until they have bigger screens. Chromebooks are wildly successful, especially in education. And we've seen a history with Apple and other companies where if you can tap into the education market, then that's what the kids are used to and learn, and they stick with you. So I think that is definitely clickbait because like Harold Carey in Utah noted it, and I've seen it locally where these school systems are dumping a fortune buying Chromebooks and saving a fortune in the process over conventional things. And then the kids, they like it for several reasons. The cost is one. And number two is the teachers have so much control because when the kids are using Google Apps in class, the teachers, they can collaborate on a joint project. The teachers can monitor things and see what they're, can do. I mean, it's the way to go. And Google has, even though there's no comparison of Google Apps to the full-featured desktop suites, Alan will disagree with me because for most people, they're both fine. But
it's getting closer and closer.
It's getting closer and closer, and Google has made dramatic, very significant strides and improvements in these things to where it's, I remember when you couldn't edit a spreadsheet on mobile in Google Apps or Google Docs, right? Now it's a great interface. It's great. So they're continuing, because this is a money center, right? So they're continuing to improve, and we're seeing more rapid improvement, frankly, in docs than almost anything else I can think of in Google. So there you go. Okay, so next up, Berlin bans the Uber app, citing passenger safety concerns. That sounds like a citing existing legacy cab company, taxi company lobbyist concerns would maybe be a better thing here. But we're seeing this pushback everywhere. We've covered this multiple times. Any thoughts on this? I mean, at some point, and it's not just Uber, it's Tesla trying to sell cars and getting pushback from state legislatures across the country, even here in Virginia and Texas, where they have to pretend that they're not selling cars. They have a showroom. They can't give you any prices in the case of Tesla. In the case of Uber, they're banned, and I think they were banned in Virginia for a while, but then I got a press release from our new governor, saying that they had come up with some sort of thing to temporarily allow them. What do you guys think about this? At some point, are we going to start embracing technology in this country, even if it conflicts with our legacy, well-heeled, lobbyist-paying infrastructure? Because the consumers want it.
Oh yeah, you're not the least bit cynical there, Dan.
No. So, has anyone been on an Uber? Anyone used Uber or Uber X? Cadeas, I can't believe you've never used Uber.
No,
Sure.
Charlie uses it though, but he's not here right now, so
How does he like it?
he keeps using it and racking up the bills. So I would assume he likes it.
So it's omnipresent on your credit
Yeah,
card
so every time I
statements,
see
so-
it, I know. Yeah, so he's using it. So
Yeah, and just for folks who don't know, Uber works. It's an app. All of their drivers are independent contractors. They don't actually have a fleet of vehicles. They open up in a city, and then they require. They used to have iPhones. I think now they have Android phones. I could be wrong in that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But they have to have two phones. They have like the regular phone, and then they have a separate phone that's running an app. I guess kind of like probably placed on the dashboard like a GPS would be, and it's kind of like an eBay for drivers and for passengers, where they can rate each other, and the passengers can rate that Cadeas is a really good driver, but Alan's a crazy driver, and don't ever get in the car with him. And then the reverse is true, where they can rate the passengers. This person, is unruly,
Because let's remember here. These crowdsourced rating systems are absolutely impossible to forge or fake or trick people with. So this is an entirely reliable source of rating drivers and customers.
And I think the eBay analogy is a good one, because if you look at a seller and you see that they got a bunch of listings up there, and eBay does a good job. They don't censor stuff, I don't think. And if you look at what you want to do is you want to look at their overall star rating, and then you want to look at the most recent reviews, right? In case they've scammed something initially. But if you see someone with 575 reviews and they got 4.5 stars, I mean, it's hard to say that that's a bad bet, right? These things
Sure it
do
is.
work.
It's trivial to say that's a bad bet. Just go ask anybody who's on Yelp or Foursquare, or wherever Foursquare calls themselves these days. It's easy to create fake numbers. Trivial.
But these companies are getting better and better at detecting that, because it's
No,
in
they're
their
getting
users'
better and
best
better at not
interest.
caring.
I don't know. I mean, like you see Yelp, even Yelp. Like, what was the restaurant that I forget what it was? They did something controversial, and they went to 1 star, and all these people were trashing them, and then Yelp started dismissing some of the reviews. I forget what it was. It was a great story. We should have covered it. I don't think we did. But yeah, this is sort of the growing pains of technology, I guess, where people want these things. And let's transition here, and we can still talk about both of these. Oh, we've lost Michael. I swear to God,
sorry, I injected this because I expected him to be here.
that Dalai Lama thumbnail he's got just kills me every time. We had the same situation here with Airbnb in Warren County, Virginia. Tariq Salahi, who was one of the alleged White House gate crashers, and was in Real Housewives of DC, which I was also in one episode briefly, and he is now doing an Airbnb thing in his house here in Warren County. So this is where you can list a room or an entire apartment or entire house or what have you, a couch. And I looked because I was curious. I looked in this city in Missouri, Ferguson, Missouri, to see what the rates were, and I saw stuff for like $50 a night or $75 a night, $150 a night, and 5 stars for like, I mean, you know, $50, $75 a night. One guy, I would think it was $100 a night for an entire like studio with 4.5 stars, a bunch of reviews. And I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. You know, if I wanted to go down there and cover stuff, which I don't, but I was just curious to get a reference for this story. So what it is, it's, again, just like Uber and other services, it's the democratization of legacy services. And now Michael Ellis is here. You do this, right? You lease it out, and you are literally a bed and breakfast. I mean, you give them some sort of, it looks like some sort of kale souffle concoction that I wouldn't eat unless I think it was refused by Ethiopians. It's really not an attractive looking dish, but maybe the flavor's there, if not the allure from visual aesthetics. But tell us what experience, because here they're all pissed off and they don't know how to deal with it. You know, they say like, well, what's the point in having a gated community if you can have an Airbnb thing and just let anybody in because they have a legitimate right to be there. But then again, how do you define the difference? This is, again, the Airbnb, Tesla, Uber, existing laws have not caught up to the technology. The technology is advancing far faster than existing laws or new laws can catch up to it. And by the time the existing laws catch up to it, there's a whole new technology that they didn't even anticipate. Just like the founders, the Constitution didn't anticipate things now that we have to deal with. So, Michael, what have you got? Is there controversy going on or in your area about this? And I guess New York's banned it. But what's the deal? What's going on with Airbnb?
Well, okay, so New York hasn't banned it.
And feel free to relax.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, this topic wasn't in the list of topics, so I decided that I would go ahead and get comfortable and get into bed. Then you started announcing the topic, and I realized, oh shit, I got to get at least up the covers.
Have you been working out?
Sorry to surprise you with this one, Michael.
It's okay. I'm all right. So so Airbnb hasn't been banned in New York. That's a misunderstanding. There is controversy about it though, because for the first few years of Airbnb's existence, it's my understanding that people were hosting people and charging money for it, and not remitting any hotel tax or revenue tax to the communities in which those homes reside. So that's a problem. And of course they care a great deal, the communities care a great deal about that, because if everyone in New York decided suddenly to host people tax-free, the city would get clobbered with a loss of revenue that they can't afford. So that's one problem.
There were some other issues. The biggest ones that I keep hearing about is that a number of people, instead of doing what it sounds like you're doing, which is that you're opening your house or a space in your house where you're living to rent it out to people, that people are essentially renting out whole apartments that they don't live in, that they're not occupying at the time.
Correct.
And there are people, and since this is New York, people are buying up apartments simply to rent them out
Right.
through
I
Airbnb.
think that's exactly correct, and the root of the problem seems to me to be twofold. One is the loss of tax revenue to the city because those people that buy up apartments and rent them out like hotels don't pay the hotel tax to the city. So they may certainly pay an income tax to the state and the city and the federal government, but they don't pay the hotel tax, which makes the state or makes the city unhappy. Then, of course, the hotels in the city are very upset about Airbnb because it's lost revenue to them. For example, tonight, last night actually was my first night. I have Airbnb guests who are here from Japan, two very nice young ladies who are traveling together, and they're staying upstairs on an air mattress in my living room. And
Tell us what the experience is like when you met them. I mean, was it like? I'm very curious what that was like. You greeted them and you showed them around, and you're making new friends. You'll probably be emailing them or Facebooking them for years, right?
I suppose, yes. So I had been a couch surfing host many times when I lived in California, in San Francisco. Many times, I'll estimate it, approximately 50 times, I hosted different people from various parts of the world. I mean, really many various parts of the world. And it was wonderful, but there was no charge involved. There was no money involved. It was just, I opened my home and people had a profile. They asked me if I had an available couch, and if I did, I could host them if I wished. And I did it many times, and it was great fun. I met people from Indonesia, from China, from many times from Germany, from France, from Sweden, and it was a good experience. So when the opportunity came to try this Airbnb thing in New York, I thought I would give it a shot. I had listed my home on couchsurfing.org, but had never had anybody request anything. I think because my home is up in Harlem, maybe there's just not that much interest in being in Harlem. Everybody thinks they want to be in the Village or Chelsea or wherever they think they want to be. They don't think they want to be in Harlem. And I think people are probably still afraid of being in Harlem. So, but Airbnb I did get some traffic here, and I've had like 3 inquiries since I first listed a profile. And I'm sorry, that's not right. I've had numerous inquiries and 3 pre-bookings. The pre-booking is where the guest says, yes, I'm interested, and that tells the host that if I accept them, I'm booking with them unless they don't confirm. It's kind of weird. So it is exactly what it's called. It's a pre-booking. It's like an indication that both parties are seriously interested in reserving the room. And so the guests pay something, and the guests come and essentially check in just like they check into a hotel, except when they get here, I'm the only one here, and I'm the only one that can give them a key. So there's a variety of housing arrangements that can be made. Some people do whole apartments like Dan referenced. Others do just you come and share my home with me, which is my situation. In New York City, if you're the owner of the property, if you're the lessor, shall I say, the lessor of the room, and you stay in the property while the guests are there, then there is no hotel tax due, because you're not really renting a hotel room. You have essentially a roommate situation for a short period of time. That seems to have been the compromise that they came to.
This is the thing. This is the argument. Similar situation here in Virginia, in Warren County with Tariq Salahi, where no one disputes that if you own a home you have the right to rent that home out for a year, say, a lease, right?
Uh-huh.
Clearly, lots of people own homes, second, third homes, and they rent them out. If you own a straight up hotel, and there's zoning for that and permits and stuff and regulations, this is somewhere in between, and you do have a right to rent it for 6 months if it's a house, and so the laws have not caught up. And so what
But that's
happens invariably is that the local people, especially in Tariq Salahi's case, where he doesn't have a glowing relationship with his neighbors, they show up at the county board, and they're at a loss. And the neighbors are protesting this situation, and they're worried, transients are going to come in here, vagrants and drugs, and none of that's happened. But there's no specific thing allowing this, right? So they think, oh, it must be banned if it's not allowed, right? So where do you draw the line
not
between if Alan owns a house and
Well,
he
but-
leases it for a year and you do it one night? What's the difference between what distinguishes you from a hotel other than you're in there as well?
Go ahead, Alan. Did you have
Well,
something you wanted?
I wanted to challenge one of the things that Dan said. He said, and they're worried about transients and so forth and so on, and
That's
none of
their
that's happened.
propaganda, right?
Well, but part of it though is
Right.
you listen. You've heard similar things in the New York City issues, and some of them have happened, where you get people who are there on Airbnb and who are treating it like a hotel room, where they're just leaving the garbage around. They're
Right.
not treating it as an apartment, and the neighbors who are treating it as an apartment and are living there and are expecting to live there suddenly find themselves with neighbors who are changing every 3 days, who don't
Right.
care about the environment. And in New York City, I don't know how well you know your neighbors, Michael, but most of the people that I talk to who live in the city know their neighbors fairly well and have to be on at least moderately good terms with them, because if not, you get a lot of conflict.
Yeah, you're in close contact with your neighbors, you're closely connected to your neighbors because your walls are shared. So, in different than many other places in the U.S., people really are near their neighbors. So, so
Our internal chat is to die for, let me tell you.
Sam,
Yeah, how do you differentiate this, Michael? Let's say you're in a gated community, right? People have paid extra money and they have fees they pay every year, every month or every year for
all of
this,
that.
right? And if someone leases a house for a year, and to preface this, I am for this concept. I've never used Airbnb as a tenant or landlord, but I think it's great. It's high tech, etc. But how do you address this? What's the point of a gated community if every day someone has the legal right to enter, and there might be celebrities in there, right? Or rich people who are trying to avoid us riffraff, and how do you explain that? Because that's one of the pushbacks against what you're doing. On the other
real
hand, you
reason-
own the property, you own the house, right?
The real reason that there's pushback on these things is because the people that are the hosts are not acting as responsible hosts. So if I have a guest in my home, I am absolutely responsible for their behavior. No different than it. Never mind the fact that money has exchanged hands or not. If I have a guest in my home and my guests disturb my neighbors, that is my fault. It is my responsibility to deal with it, to prevent it, and to correct it if something goes wrong. That's what happens in any neighborhood anywhere across the country. So
I think you've absolutely
the only
nailed it,
difference
Michael.
here is that Airbnb says, I'm going to exchange money for the right to come and occupy my home. And what's bad about it is when the people collecting the money, the lessors of the residential units, do not take responsibility for ensuring that their guests are responsible and reasonable contributors to the community they come into suddenly, even if only for a few days.
The problems that I see, I went to, Airbnb now has a New York City propaganda site where they're basically talking about all the great benefits of Airbnb to New York City. I believe it's called airbnbnyc.com. And they're making some extremely good points, saying, when Airbnb is used correctly, there's a lot of net benefit to everybody. That's not the problem. The problem
Correct.
is that Airbnb is being used incorrectly. And Airbnb has no motivation whatsoever to do anything about it.
I agree that it's being misused by maybe many people. I don't think that I agree they have no motivation to correct it, because here we sit talking about it, and in a relatively negative way, we're describing their brand and suggesting that there's something really wrong with what they're doing. So even if that's an incorrect perception, we are sitting here tonight spreading that perception. That can't be good for their business.
I don't think it's necessarily negative. I think we're viewing it from an analytical standpoint. I'm for it.
Yeah, but
I don't think there's anybody in here who isn't for the concept.
Around that we're bringing it up and discussing it. And I think we're being fair. We're giving fair treatment to it, but there's enough negativity in it that can't be good for their business model. They would rather have everybody.
I would think right now you're lying in bed half naked with two co-eds living above you. I would think this is not a negative ad for Airbnb. And I was born in Japan, so I say that with all sincerity. All right, so I'm looking here at your post here, breakfast for my very first Airbnb guests. If breakfast were included, in my review of many profiles, it's rarely part of the deal. You provide a bed, couch, or air mattress, or even your entire apartment or home. The guest pays money, transaction affected. Since this is my first time, I upped my game by and probably because it was two hot Japanese chicks, right? I upped my game by making sure they had a nice breakfast and all the amenities you would expect from a fine bed and breakfast. I'm basically their concierge. I have 3 pre-bookings since I created the profile in April. This is the first one that I converted to an actual booking, right? So let's look here. Describe this green souffle slice thing that is you're feeding to your new Asian friends.
It's called a frittata.
Oh, this is your egg experiment gone awry. That you've been posting about.
It didn't go awry, Dan. Don't misrepresent me.
That was
It's a frittata, which is an Italian omelet, and you pre-cook the filling, whatever you want to fill the omelet with, and then you pour the eggs on top of the cooked filling, and they're mixed in automatically by pouring the egg through it, and then you cook it on the bottom until it's set, and then in my technique, I put it under the broiler to cook the top, so that the whole thing is cooked.
And then you have gas for 3 solid hours.
What? No.
All right. So what's next to it? Is that pears or apples?
Apples and kiwi. I put on the plate.
Yeah, the kiwi is distinguishable. I couldn't detect the fruit on the right there. Okay, so
yeah. I cut the apple. I cored the apples. I just sliced the bulk of the fruit off the apple, and left the core behind.
So we're gonna are we gonna get a review on your breakfast from your new Japanese friends in the morning?
Well, I assume when they check out, they will write a review for how their experience was.
And don't even think for a minute that our panel and viewers will be looking at that for any reason.
Anybody who wants to check in here at a later date can do so.
He does a live show on the internet until 5 a.m. from his bed. Don't ever come here again.
It's true. I'm lying in bed, but my guests are upstairs and they're doing their own thing. They're not. I'm not involved in their business.
They're in a pleasant, giddy slumber, I'm sure. Probably
think they're-
gossiping about you as you do the same about them. Praying for a
Japanese.
5-star review.
I have no idea what they're gossiping about.
You'll be
because
all
it's
the
Japanese.
rage in Japan. What do you think, Cadeas? This Italian egg concoction that Michael has literally been working on for several weeks. Is this going to be a hit among his Japanese guests?
I have no idea.
I will say, they raved about it. They loved it.
I thought it was the breakfast for tomorrow morning.
No, we had it this morning for breakfast.
How many days are they? Are they campers? How long are they there for?
3 days.
Oh, are you on a first name basis? I mean, you like sipping wine in the evening.
You know what? We would be on a first name basis, but I can't pronounce their names.
That's where you got to get Cadeas's digits. He can hook you up with that. He can teach you the lingo. All right, so we've trolled poor Michael Ellis enough in bed. All right, next up is
That was officially not a Google Plus topic, just so people know.
it was tech, you know.
It was tacky. It wasn't tech.
Oh my God, we can use that, Alan. We got to figure out a way to use that.
We can use
All
it
right.
next time we talk about your prostate, I guess.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Pam is falling off her chair.
And Boston again.
All right, next up is see, now I'm becoming my dad. I can't see. All right, this is a topic I was not aware of and know nothing about. So I'm going to throw this to whoever.
You know what? If it's from your Flipboard, I swear to God, I am flying out there and I'm going to choke you.
No, it's not. New infrared iPhone 5 case lets you see behind walls. I don't think that's in my Flipboard. By the way, our Flipboard has
That's true.
hundreds of
That's
popular
not there.
all the cool kids follow our Flipboard page. But yeah, I don't think that was a Flipboard ad. Pam, as I humbly await your apology for your direct accusation.
I apologize, but I have to tell you that I didn't add that story either, so someone else did.
All right, so while my panel is looking at it, I would just remind you that I will be on the Virginia Talk Radio Network tomorrow, right after CBS News at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. I will be discussing the controversy in Missouri, and this program airs at 8:30 p.m. Pacific every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. I don't even know why I give times, because we were like 30 minutes late today. It was all Pam's fault.
Why did you pronounce that Missouri?
Because that's how the locals pronounce it.
That's not how the locals pronounce it. We pronounce it Missouri.
Are you serious? Why does someone say Missouri? The governor of the state.
Somebody's trying to make a joke because it's Missouri. We don't say Missouri.
I mean,
Are you from there?
Because the joke is I live in Missouri. That's why that's the joke, because we say Missouri.
President Obama and the governor of the state both pronounced it Missouri.
That's unfortunate. They're old then. We don't say that anymore.
I
Are
stand
you
corrected.
from there?
Kansas City there's Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. So I grew up on the Missouri side and then moved to the Kansas side when I was an adult. So my mother and my parents, everybody still lives on the Missouri side.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's literally the state line goes down the center of the city. So
Well, that part I knew.
there's a
I
street
didn't know
called
you were
State
from-
Line Road, and literally you can see the quality of the roads on both sides of the state line. Like, it's very clear.
It's weird
Is it
because
down-
like, my whole
down
thing
the
was
center line of the road, or is there like a border, like you cross over and now the road is bad?
That is the case, actually. Missouri roads aren't really that good. They've gotten a lot better over the years, though.
The eastbound side is not so good, but the westbound side is quite good.
Right. They even use different quality type of material to clean up the salt and clean up the snow and all that. So. but yeah,
the snow, my God! In
That's-
Warren County here, when you go from Warren County into the town of Front Royal, it's like you crossed into North Korea. It's really bad. on snow days. All right, so Alan Furstenberg, tell us about this exciting iPhone 5 case that lets you see behind walls.
It's a case that lets you do infrared readings on walls.
Well, that clears things up.
I'm really glad it does. No, I mean, what's there to say? I mean, basically what the article talks about is how more and more device manufacturers are realizing that in order to actually get their devices out there, they need to put them into smartphone cases. And those smartphone cases then plug into the smartphone, and it provides something. You know, so they're saying you're going to see infrared cameras that plug into the phone, and cryptographic systems that plug into your phone through the case, and you know, you name it. If it's another piece of hardware, it'll become a case, it'll plug into your phone, la-di-da. That's the story.
And that is our extensive coverage of this.
We talked about how to pronounce Missouri
tacky.
more than we talked about this, obviously.
Well, actually, Carl said that his prediction will be that basically people will start screaming in outrage that you can take photos of underwear and stuff disappearing in the wind and public lawsuits. You know, it's always the case. It's the camera.
Okay. All right, so we're all excited about the new iPhone 5 case. And we've learned how to pronounce Missouri. Next up, the Premier League. Football, also known as soccer in the United States, but football everywhere else in the world. And they have warned fans not to tweet goal videos or send out animated GIFs because a professional sporting event is a copyrighted performance, and this violates their intellectual property. And you talk about something that's destined to fail. You will probably in the next Premier League game see more tweets and animated GIFs than you've ever seen before. I think if you pay, you know, I mean, what do these things cost? Like $50-$100 to attend? And everyone's got a phone, and they're going to tweet, and they're going to Facebook, and they're going to YouTube their videos and animated GIFs, what have you. Why start a fight you're just destined to lose? Tell me if I'm wrong, but
Well, here's the thing.
how can you
Yes,
go
the
against
fans-
50,000 fans?
Yes, the fans may be paying, you know, X much euros to show up at the game, but the television networks are paying a hell of a lot more to show it.
I don't dispute that technically they're correct. I dispute that this is completely unenforceable. If you're at the Super
it's
Bowl
pretty-
and 50,000 people simultaneously get the shot of someone
Well,
throwing,
there's
whatever.
two things that are important to note here. The first is, yes, it's technically unenforceable, but the problem is if it does become prevalent, why would anybody pay them to actually broadcast it on TV? Because that's where they make their money. They honestly don't care about the fans in the stadium. The Premier League would probably be even happier if fans didn't show up at the stadiums, because then they also wouldn't get pictures of the riots that take place. So they would much rather only have to cater to, you know, the TV audience, I'm sure. That just doesn't look very good.
Surely you're not suggesting,
why do y'all
Alan,
say
that
that this is
European football fans take their drink seriously and occasionally.
Well, I'm actually surprised that
Pull
the
a
Premier
Ferguson.
League is more worried about people taking videos of a goal than they are people taking videos of, you know, riots. Because the impression I get is that there are more riots than goals in a game.
This is more pushback from legacy media model versus
The goal is to riot.
Oh, okay,
the
okay, Mr.
democratization
Legacy.
model.
Okay, Mr. Legacy Media.
Yeah,
Here's the thing.
guilty.
If I can sit in the stands, okay, and hold my cell phone up and record and live, you know, do a YouTube live broadcast of the game from my cell phone, or if me and my 5 friends who are sitting at various points around the stadium can do it, a Hangout on Air broadcast live, and we can do it for free, why would an old media pay a damn dime to broadcast it? And B, how the hell are they going to get enough money to pay for the players?
Clearly, I hear you.
And you hear me because this is your argument that you make every single time copyright comes up.
I get this, but when the family gathers around at Thanksgiving and there's a football game on, and there are options to watch it on ABC or NBC, CBS, Fox, whatever, or watch a Hangout on Air pixelated ghetto version versus watching it on a professionally produced with 75 cameras in the field and commentary from experts and Joe Namath is there, the whole deal.
Do you really watch a football game for the damn commentary?
I mean, back when Madden
Where's Jason Salas?
was doing
Jason,
stuff.
if you're watching, get on here.
We need some Guam. I also want to hear his comment on the sharks eating his cable. Maybe that's why sometimes he goes out. But so I don't know.
Well, Dan, I want to know why you think this is unenforceable.
If you have 50,000 people, if let's say that Mark McGwire, full of drugs, was hitting his whatever home run, or back to go back. Let's say that technology existed back then. Babe Ruth was doing his thing, and it was like a world historic moment. What if the Rodney King beating had happened at a professional sports event? Would the NFL be able to say you can't release that video? Because that's the only thing that showed what happened.
But it can still be enforced. I mean, that's pretty much what Content ID is.
But they're not going to do that. I'm saying, I said, and we can rewind the tape. We need a new word for that because there's no more tape. I said that technically they're correct, but logistically they're not, because they're not going to sue 50,000 hardcore fans because they tweeted the sports result or the video of it or the animated GIF. Go ahead, Alan.
They don't need to sue 50,000 fans. All they need to do is block 50,000 fans, and they can do that relatively easily.
Block meaning what?
Content ID, the same exact thing that happens on YouTube. You post a video, and before the video's done processing, it's already flagged and taken down. Like that can very easily happen. So I guess they're gonna.
But you know what? The legacy services, and this is interesting. I'm talking about the newest services like YouTube and Twitter. In terms of legacy services, new services would emerge immediately that would not block that, and this stuff would still get out. You got the Streisand effect. Absolutely, content will find a way. 100%. Go ahead.
Really, Dan? No, really? Because, I don't see major competitors to YouTube popping up to fill the gap where Content ID shuts people down.
If they start blocking this kind of thing.
They do!
All
the freaking time!
Do we know that they block?
How many copyright strikes do you have, Dan?
I've had one.
So clearly it's working. The system works.
But I've had one legitimate one, which I didn't realize was legitimate. But I was playing War of the Worlds and the music got me. And but I've had numerous that were false. I mean, I saw Mike Downs, he did a video where there was no audio, 0 audio, and he got a copyright strike for audio. I mean, are you kidding me? It was a silent video. He was doing a test. We got some comments. Cadeas, go ahead.
As I pointed out to Mike at the time, that's in violation of some very avant-garde music.
There should be some kind of retribution for people who file false claims.
Go ahead, Cadeas. Unmute your mic and go ahead.
God, I was just talking away. Nathan says prime example of how copyright is outdated in the digital age. Besides that, he's sure that this would fall under fair usage. Then again, they can throw PL money at it and make it go away. Basically.
No, it's not fair use.
there
It's
is no such
clearly
thing as fair use.
the soccer league or football league, if you're watching in Europe, is entirely correct. They own the copyright. They spend all the money to put on the production. They are absolutely correct. My point is that logistically, it's ridiculous to say to 50 to 70,000 people that none of you better tweet anything in a day and age when everyone from age 6 to 60 has a phone in their pocket capable of doing that, and it's unenforceable, and it's a dumb fight that they're going to lose. Go ahead, Scott Mills, comment there.
Yeah, Scott Mills, if there are advertisements all around the stadium going out on your video, then aren't you giving the ads more audience at no expense? Well, yes and no. I think one of the things to point out is that the premier, the league that owns, that is showing those ads, would rather be paid to show those ads, which is what the networks are doing, essentially, is paying the league or the team to show the ads as well. So having somebody show them for free isn't to their advantage. Kadeas, go.
Dan says another organization failing to cater to the audience, abroad in particular, in a sensible manner. That's how he feels, basically. They need to wake up and smell the future.
All right.
I think there's some legitimate points, but
Anything else on this?
no.
And there's
All
a
right.
few other. Okay.
Next up is Amazon's latest fight is with Disney. Talk about a strong competitor, or a strong opponent. Disney, Amazon got into it with Hachette, the publisher of big names like the Harry Potter series and Bill O'Reilly and others, Stephen Colbert. And there was like a public campaign, but Amazon's basic point is that books should be $10, and they laid out this detailed, multiple press releases about this, saying basically that if you charge $12, $14, $16, $18 for a book, you end up making less money in the end than if you charge $9.99. And Amazon's motivation, I think, is to make more money, and if they can make more money at $10 than 12 or 14, because you get more sales at that price point. If they found the magic price point for 2014, and I'm a strong believer that Amazon and Walmart and these other companies that are not monopolies, but you could make a reasonable argument that they're de facto monopolies because they have such a strong position. But I would differ with that. But that's something we could debate at another time. So their latest fight was with Disney DVDs, for people who still buy DVDs, and I see them being really aggressive on these things. And it's not so much that they're picking fights now; it's that these agreements have come up for renewal, and it's just kind of a coincidence, I think. But what do you guys think about this? I have no problem with Amazon simply saying that we will, under these conditions, agree to sell your product. If you don't agree to our terms, we won't sell your product. And they do have a strong market position, so it does have an impact on the content producers. And with the exception of the Washington Post and Amazon Prime Instant Video, and some of the Kindle singles that they do, they basically are not publishers or content producers as much as resellers. So what do you guys think about this? Is Amazon being a bad guy and bullying content producers into underselling their product and permanently devaluing their product? Or is Amazon looking out for the consumer and saying, hey, this is ridiculous, you're idiots, charge this or we're not going to sell your product? What do you think, Michael?
That's a false analogy that you just put forth, Dan.
That's what I
It's
do.
not
I'm a
Amazon.
tabloid publisher, Mr. Ellis.
You are. My God, it's showing. That it is not that Amazon is in any way looking out for the consumer, Amazon is looking out for the total bottom line that they can reap from the reselling experience of selling Disney product.
But if their bottom line is merely a reflection of the bottom line that's also distributed to the publisher, aren't they both benefiting?
Well, I don't know the terms of their deal. So
whatever the terms of the deal are, there's a percentage, right? Amazon gets a cut, and the publisher gets a cut, and the writer gets a cut.
Not necessarily. The deal can be structured in such a way that they get a percentage at one level, they get a different percentage at another level. So very easily one can figure out that there might be a better arrangement for Amazon that isn't such a great arrangement for Disney. That's completely legitimate, conceivable. That said, I think that Amazon is really only interested in this. They're looking at the bend in the curve for them, where the market elasticity takes effect, and they end up with more to the bottom line according to their commission agreement with Disney. On the other
Michael,
hand, Disney
do you deny that Amazon has every right to decide what to sell?
I do not deny that. They have every right to do this. They are
and
a
Disney and
strong
Hachette have a right to
power.
criticize, as do their content producers, right? It's the First Amendment country.
Yeah.
Actually, Dan,
And Disney is completely capable of finding their own, of creating their own distribution channel. If they don't like the way Amazon does it, then they can do it themselves. God knows Disney is not afraid to take on every competitor under the sun and squash them.
Absolutely. I mean, Google bought Blogger and they crushed or WordPress. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a commodity item, Amazon needs to prove that they have an advantage in some way over other ways of getting this. And honestly, picking a fight with Disney is a really, really bad way to prove your value, because Disney is incredibly customer focused. They are more customer focused than Amazon could ever hope to be. And if Disney wanted to say, look, the only way to buy our DVDs from now on is directly from us, and we'll give you free shipping, or in a physical store. What's Amazon going to do about it?
Nothing.
Nothing. Zippo.
And that's exactly what I think Disney... And that is actually, Alan, you've made my point for me. This is not Amazon being unfairly anti-competitive. It's Amazon playing their hand and playing it badly. And if Disney is smart, they'll call their bluff and do just what you said. And Amazon will be screwed. Wow, I almost used a bad word.
Disney is probably one of the few companies that's in a position that they could pull it off.
They could, exactly.
Because they've got the retail experience already. They've got the retail channel already in place. And they have the brand name that people associate with those movies.
I'm surprised that people are still buying DVDs. It must be a case where Disney is holding back digital releases of their stuff, and you have to buy the DVD first, because I don't see the advantages of owning something digitally and being able to use it on any device and that sort of thing.
Here's the thing.
Outweigh the physical media, which could break, and then you have to buy a new DVD. I think Jack Valenti famously said, "You don't have a right to back up a CD or DVD. If you buy a DVD and you break it, you buy another one." Well, screw Jack Valenti. May he rest in peace.
But
Alan?
here's the thing, Dan. That's great to do for any of tons and tons of movies, because you're an adult and you're willing to say screw Jack Valenti. When you've got a 4-year-old who wants to know why the hell they can't watch Toy Story tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I get that. I mean, you gotta have it.
Disney's got you under their thumb.
Absolutely,
and they know
yeah.
it.
I know. I did a karaoke show. Every year I do karaoke at the fair, and the kids sang. I swear to God, Alan, it was like 30 times they sang that song from Frozen. Over and over.
Let It Go.
Let It Go. It was like sometimes 3 or 4 times in a row, different little girls would come up and make their way through Frozen. Let It Go.
Wow.
and it was like, oh my God, I'm gonna commit suicide here. At least it's a good song, which it is. There's kind of an allure for our show with Michael Ellis sitting there, scantily clad, drinking wine. I think this is good for ratings. Maybe we're gonna get. What do you think, Pam? We're gonna get the women audience boosted up a little bit.
Only if he talks more. He's got that awesome bed.
In other words, shut up, Dan.
Absolutely.
You know, if I paid for Airbnb to stay in his house, he's gonna have to give up that bed.
What do you charge, or at
He can
least
stay
one side
upstairs.
of the whole bed, or one side of it, Pam? That's the question. That's what our audience wants to know.
The whole bed.
What do you charge? Can I ask what you charge, or is that too forward?
There are discounts available for people that share the bed.
Oh, in case you didn't know, Michael is single.
That's just mean because the girls that are here are really sweet. There's nothing going on. In fact, this is kind of funny because completely off topic again.
Rare for the show.
That's completely off
When
topic.
they
What a shock.
the reservation, I had no idea if it was boys or girls. I said to a friend of mine, I don't really know if it's boys coming or girls coming. I just knew there were two people coming from two different places, both from Japan. And the names are not familiar to me, so I didn't know if they were boy names or girl names. Turns out they're both very cute little, not little girls, but young women.
I'm sure that was an unpleasant surprise for you, Michael, as you dined with them. Okay, so next up is this was a really interesting story, and it's actually hilarious. To use Michael's favorite word, this writer went on Facebook and, as an experiment, decided to like everything that Facebook threw at him. Every single post he liked.
I really like this.
Yeah, this was great, and I want to get your perspective on this, all of you guys. But his feed changed dramatically over the course of it, and there's some really colorful language in here as he describes like coals and stuff. But he liked everything that came his way, and it's an epic write-up. And I just want to get your thought on this, how you can screw with an algorithm and affect what you see, and if there's any larger meaning of any kind. I have no idea. Alan, what do you think?
I think that's not screwing with an algorithm. I think that's an algorithm screwing with you ultimately. Because that's what
Yeah, he
happened.
went 2 days, like 48 hours, like. And then he even had to like negotiate with himself, because if you click like, then it gives you 4 options to like other similar things, right? So then and then if you like all those, then you get 4 more options, and it's a never-ending thing. So he eventually decided there was okay, I'm just gonna like the 4 adjacent ones and then move on. But he literally liked every single post on his feed. And then the only thing I think he didn't like was something trashing Israel about God, or so, I forget what it was. But what a fascinating experiment. I mean, these people have lots of free time. So what do you guys think about this? I thought it was, and I'm sure all you will agree, it's great writing and a great read. It's humorous, just about his experience. So what did, I guess Michael and Alan, I know, read it. What do you guys think? Let's go to the guy naked in the bed first.
I guess that's me, Alan.
We always try to get a naked guy in a bed in the show, at least once a week,
Well, somebody's got to compete with Pam. That's it.
We got Ellen out there and that crazy lady on the CNN sub-channel. Go ahead, Michael.
So
if I have to start appearing naked, I want paid.
I'll give you 100% raise, Pam.
We'll double your pay instantly.
Yeah.
I thought I was intrigued by what the guy said he did, but I have to admit I didn't go into the details of the article to find out exactly what his experience was with it. So I don't know. I find that interesting. Kind of. I find it strange that he decided to do this And I'm curious what I didn't read it yet, so I don't know what he said he experienced as a result of it, except that he said his stream changed dramatically. Most people I see on Google Plus these days are not using their streams at all. They're managing to get the content they want despite the algorithm. So I don't know that the algorithm makes much difference to most people anymore. On Facebook, the algorithm matters a great deal to me because it's completely turned me off of using the stream. I don't use it at all. I only use notifications now on Facebook. So I don't know what the rest of you do.
Alan, what do you think?
I like how he said that he could only stand doing it for 48 hours. He got fed up with it after that.
But did he get fed up because he got tired of clicking like the 5 times he had to do? Or did he get tired of the results, the stream effect? And then I wonder, how long does it take to return your stream to normal, whatever normal is for you, after you've done such an experiment? Because how long does it corrupt your stream into something unnatural?
Like when your crazy neighbor comes and watches Netflix with, and has control of it for a while, and then
exactly.
all of
my
a sudden
sister,
there's like, slasher movies on all your
Mother's Day.
recommendations for a week.
Yeah.
We got a comment.
Micah said that he's long had a personal policy of not liking anything on Facebook that wasn't from a friend, so no brands, no apps, no media outlets, and so this article helped confirm his suspicion.
It was really interesting. Basically, brands took over his feed along with extreme political views. For a while, it was like hardcore right-wing stuff and then hardcore left-wing stuff. It wasn't a particular pattern, but it was really interesting that the effect that it had, and trolling the algorithm to see what would happen, because I don't think their algorithm anticipates you would literally like everything. We got another comment from Mark, our buddy, Mark Trappigan.
Right, and Mark said that it's interesting to see that it was much stronger on Facebook. The brand effect. I'm sorry, much stronger on desktop than it was on mobile. The brand effect.
I'm curious, how does he know that? Well, I guess he knows where he liked things, right? He liked some things on his mobile and some things from desktop.
Here's a question. Let me throw this at Alan and then Pam. Google Plus pretty much gives you a chronological order of everything you circle, which can be good and bad.
What?
Doesn't it?
No, absolutely.
Am I wrong?
No.
Okay, wait.
Pam.
Whoever's causing the echo, turn it off, because it creeps me out.
And that's some doing with Pam. Creeping Pam out takes some doing.
My own voice creeps me out. Yeah.
Just for the record, my sister just messaged me a recommendation about changing my fee structure for Airbnb. So that's very important. Worth interrupting
Your twin sister, who's also lying in bed, half naked, with several Japanese men, in her case.
But this time,
in her loft.
Not spooning.
We have a serious YouTube video potential here. Okay, so I thought it was sequential.
No.
It was just in order.
No.
Like if I'm looking at my stream.
If you're looking at your all stream, then no, it's not sequential at all. In fact, if I go to my stream right now, I see several posts from this morning, bunches of posts from one person, all the people that +1 posts from people I don't even know and communities I'm not even a part of. And no, it's not sequential. However, if I go to any one of my circles and click view that circle, those posts are sequential.
Question. Okay, let's clarify this. Is it not sequential, or it is sequential interspersed with recommended, what's hot, interactive?
Not.
So like I could circle, for example, Joe Schmo who I never
Right.
interact with, but like 3 years ago I circled him, and he could post something right now, and if I was looking at my stream, and I would never see it at all.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you compare? Because I know Robert Scoble has talked about this at length. How do you
Who?
compare with the way that Facebook deals with? Because he's a big
I don't-
fan. Now he
I don't know
cultivates his stuff.
I don't know anything about Facebook, so I can't tell you about that.
So does anyone have any? If any folks commenting, watching, have any observations on this about how well Google Plus does versus Facebook at cultivating these things and what the strengths and weaknesses are?
My personal opinion is that Google Plus tends to do it a little bit better than Facebook does it, at least as a consumer of this. But that's my personal opinion. I tend to find Facebook, when I return to it multiple times, I get the exact same article showing back up over and over and over again. While
How
on
big
Google
is
Plus,
your
I tend not to see
circle
that.
of friends? I don't say circle in terms of Google Plus, but just like in the generic term. How Alan?
It's
How big is
probably
your?
smaller. It's probably smaller.
And you're more public
but
here,
it
right?
also-
It's more like your friends and family on Facebook, and because like you're an author now and a television celebrity, obviously. But is
Yeah,
this
and I
like
still
your
do this
private?
gig for some reason.
Because I pay you so handsomely. Is this more like your public face, and Facebook is more, your family and friends, that sort of thing? Because that's how it is for me.
It's more complicated than that.
We got a comment, Cadeas?
Yeah, David says word on the street from small businesses that he works with that they're tired of using Facebook or tired of waiting for Facebook to be a useful tool, and so they're using it less and less for businesses.
I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing a lot of businesses regularly using Facebook, and if I had a
More and more they're
restaurant, for
using Twitter
example,
instead of Facebook.
I'm sorry,
Because Twitter is a strictly chronological feed.
Twitter is. I don't see the adoption. Craig's not here, but he would point out that everybody has a Facebook profile, and everybody checks Facebook daily. Not everybody checks Twitter or Google Plus daily. I use all three, and I
Craig
check
is
them
over
multiple
40.
times.
So obviously, his views are skewed towards that demographic.
Not his posts. His posts are definitely not skewed toward that demographic of over 40. But I find, I've said this a million times. I consume news in real time on Twitter. Facebook is my friends and family, and Google Plus is where I meet new people. And
This gets to this
have
other
intellectual
story,
stuff.
which I'm now bumping up.
Okay, what's next, Alan? Go ahead.
There. The Scoble, whatever.
Rant.
Oh my God, this was hilarious. Robert got into a thing with, as I open it, because you just moved it up here. It's hilarious. So here's the chronology here. Why I dislike Facebook, says Lauren Locklear. What happens to Ferguson affects what happens to Ferguson. You engage. Robert Scoble. I've seen dozens of posts about Ferguson, so maybe your friends just don't like it. A fellow Thinkfluencer refutes your claim. Anthony DeRosa. Facebook just tends to be really bad at discovering following news. And then Scoble refutes that. This is not true. I have many lists on Facebook where I can discover news just as good as on Twitter. And honest to God, I have no clue how to start or read or cultivate a list on Facebook. Anthony, I tried using Facebook lists, but always came back here to Twitter because Facebook lists are inferior. Scoble, it's clear you never listen to me on Facebook. I can't speak to others, but I have been pushing lists. DeRosa, you might push lists, but Facebook doesn't, so nobody cares about them.
Look, Dan, you don't need to read every single tweet.
What's the bottom line?
The bottom line on this, and I think this was actually the best.
Preferably in list
line.
form, if you could give this in list form.
The best the best line was when Scoble at the end says, "I hate debating on Twitter. Let's take this to Google Plus." That just kind of nailed it.
I've seen a lot of those posts. I've seen Elgin. I've seen Jeff Jarvis.
Yeah, but everyone's making
talking
fun of
about.
Scoble.
Oh, okay.
Even better was when Scoble said, "I've got a higher clout score than you, therefore I must be better."
He was trolling the guy though. He wasn't seriously like waiting
No,
that as something.
no.
Was he?
Yeah. Scoble? Come on.
He was taking clout seriously, or he was trolling the guy? Because in
He was
the
taking
following
clout
comment, let me show our viewers. He said, "Robert Scoble, I have a higher clout score and more inbound than you do. You are wrong. I do this for a living too." And then DeRosa, clout score, "I'm crying laughing right now." And then Scoble says, "I figured you would like that. I can't stand debating on Twitter. Thinking of taking this to Google Plus." In our friend Robert Scoble's defense there. I'm not entirely clear at all that he was serious about that, because that would be such an absurd thing for such a learned, geek as Scoble is. And I say that with all affection.
Scoble is pretty absurd most of the time.
You'll never get over the shower pick.
I've been over the shower pick for ages.
All right, so what's the larger meaning in this, Alan? And I got a pee, so feel free to talk at length. I'll be right back.
Great.
Alan Furstenberg is next.
Another hour still. I don't know. I think the bigger message here is that, Scoble apparently seems to have the same impression that Craig does, that the world lives and dies on Facebook. And yet we've seen how Facebook isn't showing stuff, isn't managing stuff, and despite Scoble saying that there's a feature that you can use on Facebook that'll give it to you, that's like saying that there's a feature on Google Plus where you can get everything, but it's not exactly easy to use. Twitter is easy and straightforward, and that's why it's gotten the success that it has. Anybody else have any thoughts on this, or can we move on before Dan gets back? Okay, in that case. So we've got another Comcast story, because, we all love Comcast.
There's never enough of that.
There's what more can be said about Comcast? I mean, there's a reason why they're considered, let's put it this way. Comcast is number one for a reason. Now, they're number one in worst customer service amongst any company in the U.S., and there's a reason for it. It's because their customer service sucks. And this story is a prime example of how their customer service sucks. Basically, they were adding line items to a person's bill. Person called them up and called them out on it, and the customer service rep basically said, "Yeah, well, tough noogies." Until the person pulled up a recording that showed a previous customer relations person saying, "Oh no, we're not going to charge you for that." And Comcast was forced to back down. So Comcast admits that unless you're recording all of your phone conversations with them, they will screw you over. And they will like screwing you over. And they feel justified in screwing you over.
Until they can't anymore.
Well, even then they'll screw you over if they get away with it.
Well, that's what I mean by yeah. So, Alan, I got to tell you that this was very serendipitous, but I was listening to that audio of that clip, of that phone conversation, while FiOS was being installed in my home. And the guy that was installing FiOS was listening to me listen to it. And so then he and I just started discussing it and talking about FiOS versus Comcast, and it was an amazing diatribe from me about all the things I'd heard about Comcast. And he said this is exactly what he hears from everybody where he installs FiOS.
Now, don't get me wrong. My opinion of Verizon is that if Ma Bell hadn't given them a dial tone, they'd be unable to generate one on their own.
Oh, I agree with that.
but they're still better than Comcast.
Yes.
Isn't this just symptomatic of any companies that have millions and millions of customers? And I think Cadeas used to work for Comcast, so you can weigh in on this. But isn't this symptomatic of any company that competes on price and is trying to?
Who are they competing with on price?
I mean, there's not much competition. Granted that, because like you can have Comcast or you can not have fast internet, right? I have Comcast Business Class, which is excellent. I have 50 up and or 50 down and 10 up, I guess. And I've done extensive testing where I've literally taken large files like these shows, which are 2 to 4 gigabytes in length, and uploaded them to Drive and back down again to test to see if the speed test is accurate, and it is. They give a little bit more than they get, but I do see buffering on YouTube, so I think that what they're doing is they're trolling Google, and I think that's going to be a scandal in the future. If I had to make a prediction now, I think there's going to be a fight between Comcast and Google on YouTube, where I think they're screwing with YouTube and causing buffering, and we're going to see them try to make a play to get Google to bribe them like they did with Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
yeah,
it's not going to happen because Google doesn't cave into extortion demands.
in a third of the country, there is one internet provider. In two
And
thirds,
there is one
there are
video-
two,
and-
and in
Dan-
another third, there are 3 or more.
And there is also one place where you get YouTube videos from, and that's YouTube. YouTube will win this battle. Go, Cadeas.
Brandon says all these companies have horrible customer service. Comcast, Charter, AT&T. So what's the difference really?
Not much, but Comcast is apparently orders of magnitude worse. And their customers are finally standing up to it.
And then Seville is saying that they make Monsanto look like Cub Scouts. Comcast sucks.
Ouch. I don't know about that, but ouch.
And then Benjamin goes on to say that T-Mobile 4G is about the same down and better speeds as his Comcast packages. So he's getting Chrome or Miracast and upgrading his phone to unlimited data, and he's just going to cut the cord. So
The Monsanto comment gets to the whole GMO foods thing, which I'm not at all sold on. That's bad at all.
No. It doesn't get to the GMO foods at all. It gets to the fact that Monsanto is a horrible company.
And then Matt says, from his experience, it doesn't matter if it's Comcast or AT&T. The salespeople promise one thing and you get billed something different. Then you have to call and argue about what you were promised and hope you get a credit back. Come on, Google Fiber.
Okay, so are we good?
This
We're
is
good.
Act
Comcast sucks.
4
Next story.
about monopolistic powers granted to individual companies by government. And the reason it doesn't work and it screws consumers every time is because they have the right to do whatever they want to do, essentially, with government sanction, and never have the penalty of losing customers because there's no place else for us to go.
Not only that, but they're for-profit companies, and so they're a slave to their shareholders. So there's no incentive for them to do anything other than shady crap that they do. I mean, there's no accountability. You know? It's bullshit is what it is.
Yep.
It's bullshit.
And Jeff goes on to say that he's sure Comcast does this multiple times all day, every day. He can't even count the number of bad stories he has from his family and friends, which goes into play to what Pam was talking about.
His family,
Right.
Sprint would say.
And the Fios guy was telling me.
Okay. All right. Next up is this story about a fugitive from justice who was caught after 14 years from facial recognition. And this kind of brings shades up of DNA testing and things of that nature. Just technological advancements, and it's fascinating. You see these guys; they're on death row for decades, or they're in prison for decades, and DNA has proven that they didn't commit the crime. And there's often a racial component to it in the stories that make the news. I'm not sure if overall it is, but certainly the ones that make the news. But here's a story where this guy from Minnesota, here we go, back at the beginning. I guess he's 44. The FBI used facial recognition to catch him. So this is interesting. What's going on, Michael? You doing something with your thumb there?
I'm giving away my.
Are you exposing your thumbprint?
I'm giving away my thumbprint.
Aren't you worried you're going to be on some sort of list?
I've got
government
nothing
list?
left, so they can have whatever's left.
You got through Beijing security, so I guess it's all uphill from here. Any thoughts on this, Alan? This is just advancement in technology. This isn't a huge story, but anytime you can catch a real bad guy, or you can exonerate an innocent person, that's a good thing, right? What you got a comment there, Alan? What you got?
Okay, my wife just walked in, saw Michael, and said, "What the hell are you watching?"
Travis, I apologize directly to your wife.
Blame it on the Burgundy.
It's usually me.
It usually is. But this is not Burgundy. It's California. Just so you know, it's all American here. We're all about freedom fries.
Shit about to get real on Google Plus Week. And that will definitely make the
So
blooper
sorry.
reel.
Nothing illicit going on between us, I assure you.
Okay, so that happened. Next up is
I'm pouring another glass.
I could just imagine some wife walking in and their husband's watching some half-naked man sitting on a bed.
it's all about tech, honey.
Oh, Lord.
Technique.
All right, so
So how was your Google Plus week, Dan?
we got this last one here. Crowd power journalism becomes crucial when traditional media is unwilling or unable. This is another last-minute ad here. What's this about, Alan? I'm looking here.
I have no clue. What makes you think I know or care? Who put this in? Because I sure as hell didn't. No, but I mean, aside from the fact that it's pretty damn obvious what it's saying, when traditional media screws up, you've got to have alternate media. This is, nothing new. This is, we saw this in the 60s. We saw this in the 20s. We see this over and over again. This isn't anything new.
The key
There's nothing
part
special
here
about
is
this.
this
So what?
subheader. And this subheader here, lines blur between citizen and journalist. We should address that briefly. Lines blur between citizen and journalist. That's a real thing we've seen of late. The difference between the conventional media versus Joe in
But
the
that's not
street
new either.
with his iPhone or Android phone.
Again, look at the 60s. Look at the 20s. You saw that we've seen this all before.
You can go back to the revolutionary times in the U.S. and see the same thing.
It's I think it all began with Rodney King, where if whoever, and I'm remiss, I don't know the name of the person who shot the video. Even before
Which
that,
just goes to show just how effective citizen journalism really is, if you don't know the journalist.
even before that, there was one guy who had a video camera and he shot the JFK assassination.
Did Dan, can you hear me?
I'm listening. I'm all ears, as Ross Perot would say.
This isn't new.
Ladies, I hope you've enjoyed the Mike Ellis bicep shot there. Go ahead,
Oh,
Alan.
sorry.
No, just keep it focused on Michael. It's more interesting and
I'm just gonna have to blue screen him.
more interesting than this story is. That's for sure.
So anyway, we're all for citizen journalism. My Google Plus week was great. Last week I did the Warren County Fair, and it was awesome. I got some really good video. I did a bunch of videos of this adorable little kid in a parakeet cage. It was a cage with 160 parakeets, and then you would pay $2, and you got a little stick with food on it, and you walk into the cage, which was like life size, holding 30 people, and you pay to go in the cage holding parakeet food, and there's 160 parakeets in the cage, around you. And I got my first ever parakeet selfie, and I also visited her husband, and I got my first camel selfie, although I've ridden a camel before when I was a little kid. So that was awesome. It was fun. I got to meet some great folks who do the monster truck show, and these amazing motorcycle guys. And one guy did a complete backflip over ramps. So that was really, badass. And so that was awesome. So I had a great week at the fair, and there were pigs and goats and stuff. So that's always cool. We don't have enough pigs and goats in the show, Alan.
You didn't introduce the camel.
The camel's Eli.
Eli
the camel.
Yeah.
He goes
that
without
was
an introduction.
He goes, needs no introduction.
He's a
true.
camel, It's like, wow. Holy
Dan,
smokes.
Dan, who needs pigs and goats on the show when we've got Mike Ellis?
And to top it all off, I was talk about an ADHD moment. I was like on the phone with Craig Ship, and all of a sudden I'm walking by and I look out the window and there's a fawn outside, right? Because we have like bears and fawns and wild turkey, whatever, you name it. And I was like, oh my God, I'll call you back. And I hung up the phone, and then I did this shot, and I put it's on my profile. Yeah, total ADHD moment. I had to hang up on him because I had to get a picture of the fawn, and then I posted it. And ironically, I did all this in-depth stuff on the Ferguson thing, and I think the fawn has gotten more traction than any of the stuff that's actual news, right? But if you are interested in the Ferguson thing, check out my profile. I've got links to all the press conferences today from the family, from the police chief, from the captain guy, who's like the next governor in waiting of Missouri because he's awesome, and all that stuff. The governor, and all the documents from the police reports and stuff, and the video of the stuff. It's all there. I was really on it today. So if you really want to catch up on this, and if you're curious on the Missouri thing, check out my profile. I've got links to all the relevant news sources with all the stuff that's not propaganda stuff. So I had a good day. It was interesting. And I had a good week. Got to hang out at the fair, and I got to see a baby deer with the spots still on. They're so cute. Now, all my neighbors, my redneck neighbors, were, contemplating dinner when they saw my deer picture on Facebook. Sadly, not on Google Plus. Pam Adger, how was your Google Plus week, young lady? I'm sure it's got an uptick with Michael Ellis here in full regalia.
Of course, that's always the highlight of my week.
Well, if I had a dime for every time I've heard that.
You'd have a dime.
I'd have Thanks a lot. I'm going on camera now.
Michael, you have to admire her speed at delivery. I mean, only Aaron Sorkin could top that. Pam, how was your Google Plus week?
It was good. The weather was hot. I was completely devastated by the death of Robin Williams.
Oh my God, you're right. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, that was tough. What else? Work is really, really ramping up. It's becoming really busy, and that's about it. I didn't really have anything super exciting happen. I'm pretty boring in real life, so.
Now that's perhaps the first lie you've ever told on this program.
Oh no, I'm really boring. You can ask Cadeas and Alan. I'm.
Isn't it weird how
I'm
these
pretty boring.
actors get under your skin? I mean, I remember watching We're both old enough. We watched Happy Days, probably you in reruns, me in real life. And you see these actors, and it's you invite them into your living rooms. In my case,
I think-
my parents were there, and it's sad. And we learned, they had Parkinson's, and that can introduce depression and stuff. But someone so talented, so incredibly talented, it just hurts us personally.
I think it's
in a way
individual. You know what I mean? I think it's individual. Tim Russert. When Tim Russert died,
yeah.
I was devastated. When Robin Williams died, when John Belushi died, there were a couple of others. It's just.
Is it a comedian thing? Not in Russert's case. But that
talent.
was sudden. But like,
I think it's talent or respect or just for me it's individual and personal. Some people were totally devastated when Amy Winehouse died, and some people were just floored when Heath Ledger died, and I just think it's individual. I don't think it's not universal. For me, there were three that stood out: John Denver, Tim Russert, and Robin Williams. For me,
I don't know, Pam. I agree with you that it's very individual for a lot of people. I think what's surprising to me is I don't think I've heard. I don't think anybody else I've heard has compared to Robin Williams to the conversation that's gone on after Robin Williams. It's still going on.
Princess
I still
Diana,
hear news stories about it. I still hear people talking about it.
Princess
It's still
Diana
posted
was
on
bigger.
Facebook and Twitter. It's still all over the place.
Yeah, it's true, because he touched a lot of people. He did a lot of different things, and he was a nice guy. He contributed to a lot of charities. I mean, yeah, he had some difficulties in his personal life, but he never kept that stuff secret. He never treated the people who adored him like crap, like some other celebrities do.
That's what's interesting. If you looked at the stories about his neighborhood, they said that he was an avid bicyclist, and he would ride through the neighborhood, and he loved his dog, and he had a dog, and his neighbors said that he was completely different in person. He wasn't anything like the hyped up, caffeinated character he played on television, that in person he was Robin, the funny guy neighbor. And you knew who he was, right? Because he was so famous. But they said that he was just the neighbor. He was a really nice guy, and they said he was a good listener. Because on TV shows, like, a host would throw him a line, and he would go with it at length, right? Because he was on stage. But in real life, he would, if Michael or Pam or whatever, you're having problems with a significant other, or you had a funny story to tell, he would listen at length to you, and really listen with your ears on, not just listening, but actually contemplating what you said and then respond to it. And that it was a totally different person in real life. And that was it's sad that you only get to know these people after they're gone. And we also, I'd be remiss to note, oh my God, the famous actress from Hollywood, who also was deceased this week, died.
Lauren Bacall.
Lauren Bacall, husky voice, very talented, was in a relationship with, throwing it to Pam. Oh gosh.
Come on.
Anyway, we're gonna comments on that. We're gonna get 50 comments saying
Bogart and Bacall.
Bogart, Humphrey Bogart. So
Yeah, and she was like what, 19, 20, and he was in his 40s, and he was married, and
she's got nothing on Jerry Lee.
Oh well, yeah.
so there's Nashville.
Yeah.
WTF Japan has nothing on 1950s Nashville. Michael Ellis, in all your splendor there, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
Good. I'm working hard on on my project management certification through the Project Management Institute. So I spend every day now studying my books and my class lessons, and I'm looking forward to getting ready to take my exam. So I'm healthy enough that I can sit up and do those things now. And today I rode to Midtown, New York City, and met some fraternity friends of mine and had wine at a really fantastic wine bar, and which my friend is now one of the salespeople at. So I was able to drink for basically free and enjoy it. So it was a nice cap to the week. The Robin Williams thing was difficult for sure because it's strange because I started out not a Robin Williams fan, and I migrated into a big Robin Williams fan over the years. So I didn't really love him when he was Mork and Mindy, well, he was only Mork, but you know what I mean. And then when it got to later years, I just absolutely loved some of the characters he portrayed in movies, and it really hit me when I found out he had passed away. So I was sad about that, especially because a very good friend of mine suffers from depression, and when I heard that that was the affliction that Robin Williams had, I was really touched by that. It struck me. So it's a contemplative week, I would say.
He was an acquired taste. Those of us who are old enough to remember on Happy Days, and then they had the spin-off. And I draw an analogy to Tom Hanks, who started out in a silly sitcom, Bosom Buddies, and grew into an amazing, accomplished actor. So you look at the stuff he did with Matt Damon and Dead Poet Society, right? That's what it was?
Yeah. Yep.
He had a variety. I mean, he could be a silly slapstick comedian.
Yep.
Caffeinated, I guess,
and in the
best polite way to say
film,
it. You just got self-muted or something, Michael, or I'm not sure.
Sorry, Dan. I said he could do that in the same film.
Yeah.
He could portray all those characters in the same film.
Is there a thing, let me move to Cadeas here. Is there a thing with comedians where there's some kind of therapy, or it seems like we've seen this too many times where there are really, really funny people, and Robin Williams was one of the most on fire funny people alive, and we see these self-destruct mechanisms when you really get to that level, like an Elvis Presley of humor, and Elvis Presley is a good example. Do we see that there's a pattern here where there's some kind of depression and they became funny because the depression always existed, so it was almost like therapeutic for them to be funny, and that's how they dealt with it. And they meet this tragic end, because it's not all the time. I mean, we cover plane crashes in the news media. We don't cover the planes that land successfully. So there are many, many actors that do fine, but it's just so sad. I mean, any thoughts on this, Cadeas? And also, how's your Google Plus week? Not to begin on a downer.
Well, as far as Robin Williams, I'm not a comedy movie watcher, so I haven't seen very much of his stuff. Although I do know him from Aladdin, the cartoon. He was the genie, so I know him from a few things. But so it was kind of disappointing to know that he committed suicide. But I think it's more along the lines of a lot of people. I remember there was the kid in where was it? Northern, like Santa Barbara. He did the same thing, committed suicide. A little more rougher than Robin Williams, but I mean, it's just this depression and this suicide thing, when a lot of times I think it's just people need to connect with people, and that's kind of a big deal. So my Google Plus week was pretty good for the most part.
All right. Very long-winded there. We got to rein you in. Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
With the exception of Robin Williams, and it brings tears to my eyes every time I read another story about him. Aside from that, it was pretty good. Last week, I taught a course on last Saturday, which went over tremendously well. And I'm preparing to give some presentations this week. So looking forward to that.
If someone's interested in that, where would they go to find out? If they were interested in learning, is it glass development presentations or?
The last presentation I did was run by an organization in New York City called UbiTech
Okay.
for ubiquitous technology or something like that. I'll be doing more classes there. We're organizing a glass hackathon coming up sometime next month,
Is there a
I
URL?
think. Do a search on meetup.com for UbiTech. I believe it is ubitech.co.
And if
Um,
someone's interested in learning about glass development, there's a book they might purchase. Where
Yes,
might they
there's
do
a
that?
book that I've written at
Along with?
Jason Salas. You can find it at shop.o'reilly.com. It is Designing and Developing for Google Glass. And the presentation I'm making next week will be at the Speech Tech Conference in New York City. So I'll be speaking at the Marriott Marquis Hotel next Tuesday and Wednesday on various aspects of glass design, development, and speech technologies.
From Guam to New York to California to beautiful Bentonville, Virginia, home of the Skyline Drive.
This
we
is
deliver
Google
the
Plus
goods.
Week with your host, Dan McDermott.
Absolutely. We thank you very much for watching and commenting, especially. Thank you so much. We have two programs. This program, which is called Google Plus Week, every Friday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, unless the ferry is running late and Pam's indisposed. And Cadeas is still driving while operating multiple technological devices. 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific every Friday is Google Plus Week. On Monday nights, we have another program called Our Android Week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So we thank you very much again. And until next time, have a wonderful Google Plus Week.